January.
Mr. Chairman, I've read those minutes and found them to be in order, so I'm moving for approval.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gooch.
Second.
Mr. Piercy. Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our next thing on the agenda is our investment report from Mr. Beatty.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Mr. Chairman.
Ted.
It's short. We did not have a bid last month. We will have one I'll report on next month. But our effective rate is 262. So it's a whole lot better from the 0.02 that we were at just a couple of years ago. But I would point, you can see where we did some investments and we took the 6-month option. They're listed at the top of your listing. And you can see our 262 is just above some of those and just below. So we'll be able to rebid those. So I think it was wise we took the shorter route so that we can rebid because those rates have gone up. But if you're watching, it looks like the rates will probably steady for a while. We'll kind of watch the Fed. So we'll probably change a little bit the way we invest. We may invest a little further out depending on what the rates offers. Although this last one, and then I'll report on this, but there was only 2 basis points difference between a year and 6 months. So we took the 6 months option because we just weren't getting paid enough. You know, one more rate in the next year by the Fed would certainly make up for that. But rates are not climbing, they are. But our LGIP rate, again, we get 26 basis points above that, is still climbing significantly each month. So that's good news.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Beatty? Not, we'll entertain a motion on his report.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Johnson.
Second.
Mr. Stevens. Any other comments? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, can I just remind everyone that February the 28th is the last day to pay taxes without penalty. Your county property taxes in town of Laverne, Smyrna, which is in your county bill. So if you're looking for a separate Smyrna tax, it's in the county, in Eagleville, are all due February the 28th. And you're certainly welcome to mail those. As long as you have them postmarked, they'll be fine, but that is the end of this month. 1st of March, there's a 1.5% interest added.
Or they can pay online, which
They can pay online at
fantastic.
rctrustee.com and can go online. You can print a bill if you've lost it. You can go right there and print it off, or you can pay it online as well.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll look at the fund condition report. Ms. Lisa's going to cover that for us.
Okay, starting with the development tax, we received $760,500 in January. Now, of that, there was $396,000 from Smyrna for 264 apartments. That brings our total for the year to $3,796,500, of which our budgeted estimate was at $3,200,000. Yes. Okay. That's going to come into play later. So budget amendments. Okay. So at the end of January, our cash balance totaled $336,557,000, with $280,090,000 being operating funds and $56,466,000 being borrowed funds.
Okay. Anything else?
Not on that. There's no question on there. The revenues, looking at that compared to the prior 5 years at the same point in time, there's really nothing concerning at this point. Some of the points I make on the bottom, our development tax, as you can see, we're almost 25% higher than we were last year. Our hotel motel tax, I brought that up last month, that we are, compared to where we were last year, we are a decrease of 4%. Budget, I pretty much budgeted that flat, no, a little less. So, I mean, as a budgetary basis, we're fine. Sales tax countywide, including all the governments, we're an increase over prior year of 7%. At the end of January of the tax roll, the trustee's office had collected 59% of the tax roll by the end of January. You can see how that compares to all the prior years, and so they're doing a good job collecting.
Any other questions on the, or any questions on the report? not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Brucey, Shannon. I don't think we need to call roll on this one, do we? All in favor of the report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next order of business is the risk management and financial report. Lois, please help us with that. Welcome.
Good evening. First, we'll look at the monthly revenue versus the expenses. This is for Fund 264, which is the medical health fund. And if you'll see the top chart on that, you can see the difference between the revenues that comes in versus the expenses that comes in for roughly a 2-year time period. The purple line is the revenue, the gold line is the expenses, and it follows a pretty similar pattern. You can see the dips where the Board of Education don't pay during for those 2 months because they're on a 10-month payment schedule. And you can see at the beginning of the years where some of the revenue goes up, that's usually increased enrollment, and whatever the rate increases were, or if they were held flat, that would be reflected towards the beginning of the year as well. So for the last month, January, we had $7,166,899 in revenue versus $5,676,203 in expenses, which leaves us a surplus for the current month of $1,490,696, and that is graphed below where the two are just boiled down to one line and what the differences are. If you look at the next page, we have our calendar period year-to-date revenue versus expenses, and this is only for 1 month this year and 1 month last year, so it really doesn't tell us a whole lot. Last year we had $6.6 million in revenue versus $6 million in expenses, and this month we had $7.2 million versus $5.7 million in expenses. If you look at the fiscal period year-to-date, that gives you a little bit better picture of what we're seeing so far. It's going to cover 7 months of information, and so last year we were actually running a deficit through January, and that is true this month, this year as well. The rationale behind that is not necessarily poor experience at this point in time. Again, for the months of July and August, we don't have Board of Education premium coming in, so it takes almost the full rest of the year for all that to catch up. If you go to the next exhibit, this fleshes out the numbers a little bit better for you. The first set of numbers is the calendar year revenue versus expense comparison from 2018, and then the next set is the 2019. Of course, there's only 1 month because it's a calendar year review. You'll notice that the premium went up, the revenues went up about 8% over last year. That looks like it's due to about a 2% increase in enrollment, coupled with a rate increase of approximately 6% on the total package. So that was divided back out over the plans in different increments, but roughly 6% on the total plan. Again, it shows that same surplus that we saw on the previous page, and it shows that we're running favorably for the year so far. If we look down at the 2017 to 2018 fiscal year comparison versus the 2018 to 2019 fiscal year comparison, again, we're only looking at 7 months of the 2019 time frame, and that shows a deficit due to, again, premiums not having all come in this year because of the 2 months that we don't receive any, and that will equal itself out as the year progresses. We had, like I said before, a 1.9% increase in our enrollment for 2019. So we have 6,098 subscribers and 12,845 members. That's an average contract size for our plan of roughly 2.1. That's slightly lower than normal, and that can be expected because of the spousal exclusion. So the overall rate increase of the plan this year was less than trend. The plan is running favorably so far into the fiscal year, but doesn't account for reserve changes or projected trend as we move forward into looking at what we think the rates are going to be for the next year. We will be determining those rate needs in the next couple of months. One thing that we would note, the grandfather deductible plan was having some bad experience, and that's why it's grandfathered. We're trying to slowly move the people who are the subscribers who and their families who are enrolled in that over to the other plans. And this year the plan enrollment dropped 60% in that plan. The enrollees went in equal portions to the copay and the HRA plans. The next exhibit is the year-over-year pay claims. We're switching to Fund 266 now, and it's just a visual look at the prior year versus the current year in pay claims for our OJI, work injury fund performance, and it also does still include some workers' comp claims. You'll notice the last month from last year, it's actually gone negative. That was because there was an actuarial adjustment to pay claims done by finance at the end of the fiscal year. If we look at what goes on in these claims and what's driving them, the top three reasons for our OJI claims currently are slips, trips, and falls, struck by claims, and strains. If you compare the workers' comp to the OJI costs, we still have a few outstanding workers' comp claims. We did have 8. We've recently closed 2, so we're down to just 6 old workers' comp claims that we're working through. And the large number that we see back in October of 2018 was 1 claimant on workers' comp. If you look at the next page, that's just a numerical analysis of the same information you saw before, and you can see down below where there's a negative number in the June timeframe, and that's where that adjustment was made. If you look at the boxes, the year-to-date numbers so far for 2018-2019, $462,691 in OJI claims, compared to the same time period last year of $553,683. So we're having a better year than we had last year so far as OJI claims go. The next exhibit is the legal expenses by fiscal year, and this just shows what we paid in legal expenses year-over-year time period. This month we had a higher legal expense than we had last month paid to Hudson, Reed, and McCrary, and that doesn't capture the money. This is only paid to that firm. That doesn't capture the money paid to other legal firms, and we had an additional $27,684 paid to other firms on behalf of our defense teams. Are there any questions regarding the financial exhibits for the risk management department?
Okay, any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the report as presented.
Motion by Ms. Allen.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second, and you can call roll on this one also.
Acclamation.
All in favor of the report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Risk Management Committee recommendations, and I assume you're going to do those for us too?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The Risk Management Department recently had 2 RFPs go out, one for our broker and TPA for the property and casualty and the OJI claims, and also one for our safety services. And so I'll go through briefly the findings of the committee. This was these were approved by the insurance committee on a unanimous basis, sent to back through purchasing where they were also approved, and now to the budget committee for their approval. There were 4 bidders on this. 2 of them were eliminated before we really even got started. The AJG group does not have Tennessee drug-free workplace in place, and we need to have that in order to contract with these providers. The school board has several grants that require Tennessee drug-free workplace, so they were eliminated. And the PMA Management Corp was also eliminated because they're TPA only. They do not provide brokerage services, so they weren't a full-service provider for the purpose of this bid. So we had, that left us with the incumbent, which is CCMSI and Assured Partners. On the next page, there's only one thing I'd like to point out, and it's just a difference. It doesn't mean that one's better than the other. It's just a difference in the way they do things. CCMSI does the claim management services in-house, and Assured Partners will partner with another group called Collins and Company. So it should still all work about the same. Other than that, the only big differences that were found, the services are identical. The only big differences that we found were in price, and CCMSI, the incumbent, would collect nearly $940,000 in commissions off the sale of products that they sell in favor of the county, and Assured Partners has agreed that they would not do the same. So that saves us quite a bit of money, and in the end it just came down to costs because the services are to be identical, and we are saving $788,000 if we take the committee recommendation to go with Assured Partners. There's 5 years of fees, and they're held flat, and they were recommended not only on price but on all services available. Any questions?
So that passed unanimously at insurance and purchasing, I assume?
Purchasing, yes.
Okay, do we need to vote on this or go on to the next and bring them together?
We can vote on it, or we can bring them together, either one, it doesn't matter.
Well, let's just continue if that's okay.
Okay.
We'll
The next RFP that was sent out was for the safety inspection services, and we had 5 bidders on that. The incumbent, CCMSI, was a bidder. Again, we had the same problems with the other bidders, the Arthur Gallagher and PMA, and so that left Assured Partners and Johnson and Associates. The answers to the RFP questions are consistent for all of the vendors, and so it just came down to price. The best price given to the county came from Johnson Associates. They have a bid that's in place for 3 years. On year 4, they can raise it by 2%, but then year 5 would be held flat to year 4. So it's a 5-year deal. They do cover all of our locations, and all buildings will be inspected. The second inspection, there will be a second inspection if there's infractions found. And this group also does work with the City of Murfreesboro. And again, they were recommended unanimously by both the Insurance Committee and Purchasing Committee.
Very good. Are any other questions?
Both these came out of the purchasing committee, and
Yes.
we accepted the recommendation. I move we accept her
Commissioner
recommendation.
Johnson,
Second that.
Commissioner Dodd, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Peake?
Yes. Thank you very much. And I may have cut
The
that
next
off a
one,
little
too.
early. Were there any other questions on that? Okay. Thank you. Let's see, our next agenda item is the health insurance for commissioners. And I assume Sonia is going to work with us on that, or?
So not this past Monday, but the Monday, the steering committee last month, it was requested that we research what other counties are providing as benefits for their commissioners. And so my team went together and polled the other 94 counties and to find out what benefits were offered. I do believe it's on your iPad if you can see it, but I've also bought hard copies in case somebody wanted. There was some things that was mentioned. As we had the discussion on Monday night about this, I wanted to make some clarifications just to make sure, as I went back and listened to the meeting and rethought about what was said, I wanted to make sure that I was very clear, and Lois and I discussed it. On this particular summarization of the benefits that were available, I wanted to update the page where, well, let me just start from the beginning, because you guys, some of you were at the meeting and some of you weren't, so I want to go through it. So when we polled the 94 counties, 2 of the counties wished not to respond to the request. 9 of the counties did not return the call, but 22 of the counties did return the call, and that they offered life insurance benefits. And so the first thing is I wanted to make sure that you knew is what life insurance benefits were offered. Lois and I did some research, and it was determined that the life insurance was already being offered for 2 county commissioners, but we were made aware at that meeting that many of the commissioners were not aware that that option was available to them. The county offers a $35,000 life insurance for the employees, and that is also offered to the commissioners, and we have determined that the road board and the school board members were eligible to participate in that as well, but for whatever reason, you know, some of the individuals were not aware. However, it is, you do have to pay the premium, and some of the commissioners, I guess, that have been around a little bit longer were already participating in you, but then for the rest of the commissioners, we wanted to make sure that you knew that that was available to you as well. Okay. The next thing was 36 of the counties surveyed did offer.
Excuse me just a second.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chairman, was that during the new member orientation when they were first elected back in September? Was that ever shared with the new commissioners?
You know, I went back through, that's strange you said that, because that was the first thing I did, is I went back through their handbook that they were received as a handbook, and I didn't see a benefits section in there that they would have been advised about. So the answer to that would be no.
It wasn't offered to them, even though others, it's made available to them.
It was not made aware.
So is it too late? Would the company still allow them to come up?
That is an excellent question. I'll check on that.
Okay.
I was made aware 4 years ago, my first term. You were the same year as me. So I just recall.
I've been here 20 years. I didn't know this is mine. Which is okay.
I think you're participating.
You'd like to.
I think it just started a year ago.
I checked. Now, I went back and looked. There's about, it's been since way, way back, because I look back at some of the commissioners like Carol Cook, some that have been around just to say, okay, at what point did we miss the boat, you know, just to kind of, to make sure. And so, and there are several, there's a handful, I won't say a lot, there's like 4 or 5 commissioners that are currently participating. And it's a nominal amount. It would come out of your check. So it's like anywhere from $2, $3, $4 somewhere. So we'd have to get, it's based on several factors.
I was thinking about $20 for the year.
Yeah, it's very nominal. And so you might not notice $2 or $3.
But I don't even see my
Check. Okay. And I may be wrong, but I look just to make sure. So anyways, Lois can tell you the other answer about if it's too late. Hopefully it's not.
Yeah, we'll check on that.
Then the next part of the survey was that 36 of the counties responded that they did provide health, medical, and vision to their commissioners. And where I wanted to clarify, because I wanted to make sure that it was clear and that I didn't misstate, misreport, on the initial handout that we gave y'all on Monday night, it just says portion of premium. And after I looked at that, that could have been misleading to think that the county paid that portion of the premium. The question was, when we did the survey, was what portion of the premium does the commissioner pay? And so when it says full premium, that means that the commissioner is responsible for the full premium. So I wanted to make sure that I was clear on that. There are several of the counties that do pay a portion or all of the premium on behalf of the commissioners, but I just wanted to make sure that I didn't misstate that. Then the remainder, 8 of the counties, in addition to offering the health insurance, also allowed their commissioners to participate in TCRS. And 2 of the counties offered dental and vision, but not medical. I did go back and check with Empower, which is our 401k and also our 457B. They are a nonprofit, and the county went with them. We moved from Nationwide to Empower last year during the budget process, and they are nonprofit, and I did confirm that the commissioners could participate in that. So you have a account set up, a shell account, and the board the school board members and the road board members, we would just have to set up their accounts with the finance department and with Mary.
The school board members are eligible for the school board's 403B and 437B.
Right, that's what I was saying, if they was set up. So all they have to do is...
Through ballot.
Ballot.
Yeah.
But they're also available to this for your
They're
plus
either
fund.
one.
Am I signed up for that?
No, sir. And so, but we can make that happen. So that's something that you could do. You could take a portion of your check if you wanted to, each pay period, and
Can they sign up now?
they can sign up anytime for that. So I can get your forms, you just tell me you want it, and I'll email you the form, you fill it out and send it back to me, and we'll set you up. So that's available to all commissioners as well. As we were researching the various aspects to make sure that, we were giving them correct information, Josh McQuarrie was also included in a lot of the research and looking at it from the legality of it. A question was brought up by Commissioner Phillips, I believe it was, during one of the meetings, is it has been the practice of the county that increases in pay and those type things could only be done for an outgoing commission. But Josh says that's been more of a practice and not a rule, it's not a hard fast rule, it's just something that they've always done. He said he could not find anything in the TCA that related to that, and he also checked with CTAS and had CTAS attorneys to research it as well. So he said there's nothing that would prohibit the commissioners, if they so chose, from implementing any of these practices currently, now. The other thing is the COBRA rules would apply for commissioners and board members, just like they would for anybody else. So once someone was no longer in office, then the COBRA rules would apply. They would have the 18 months of coverage just like any other employees would. They would have to follow the plan rules as laid out for employees. They would be members. One of the things that we looked at is that the summary plan documents for each of these, for medical, vision, and dental, would have to be updated. Also, the life insurance would have to be updated as well. To say, it has a members, it says who can be members of this plan, and currently under the membership right now, it only says full-time employees and outlines, or part-times if they meet some criteria. And so that would have to be updated to say county commissioners and elected board members. The life insurance currently has county commissioners on there as a member of the life insurance that can participate, but it did not include the school board and the road board, and that would just be a simple process of taking it through the insurance committee and adding it to the summary plan document. So we did verify that that could take place. So that it wouldn't be a challenge for the risk management employees to reach out to a commissioner and say, I'm going to need your premium this month, I didn't receive your check. It could be set up under ACH, so it could be directly taken from your checking account, not your paycheck, for medical, dental, and vision. However, the life insurance has to come out of your paycheck. That's the only...
That and any other voluntary
that
plans that you might select. There's cancer plans and critical illness plans that are voluntary plans, and those would have to come out through your check as well.
Next.
So either one of the plans that anybody takes, if they're no longer elected or whatever, it's automatically terminated. Life insurance and health insurance, correct?
Well, the health insurance, the medical, and does dental and vision, they can all roll over with
COBRA as well.
So that's for 18 months. You can continue the coverage for 18 months. With the life insurance, there is a portability, but usually the cost is going to be a lot higher for $35,000, and it also has some rules as age requirements and other kind of things, right, that would cut it off. So it does have some things that you would do, but typically once you move out of the group plan and go to it as an individual, it is a little bit higher than it is as a group. Also included the full premiums based on whichever plan anyone would want to know what that would cost, and then what the COBRA would rate. Now again, this is current year. Each year the premiums are evaluated based on utilization. Right. And that was one of the other areas that we wanted to touch on for just a minute. While the request was that it be offered to participate in a group plan and the commissioners pay the full premium, there was a conversation around this wouldn't cost the county anything, which as far as the premium, there would be no matching on the premium because the commissioners would pay the full premium. So that is right, there would be no matching. But we do want to make sure that we clarify that being a self-funded insurance fund, that the premiums are driven by utilization. And so it wouldn't be fair for us or even right for us to say that extra utilization could not possibly or
Right.
would
It's
not
not that
possibly affect future premiums because
The risk is minimal given the fact the plan is as big as it is. There's over 6,000, as I mentioned before, nearly 6,100 employees or subscribers, over 12,000 members. That's a very sizable plan. The premium equivalent of the plan reaches $80 million a year. So, but having said that, the utilization is what drives the plan. So any utilization above the norm puts pressure on the rates, and any utilization below the norm takes the pressure away. Now, given again the size of the plan, you would expect that the people who enroll in this would really have no overall impact. But to be totally open and honest, there's a chance that poor experience could drive a higher rate. But just for the few people that would enroll, more than likely not. It's just could happen.
you don't want to say wouldn't, we just say probably would.
Sonia, I noticed you mentioned the road board and the school board and of course the commissioners. Did you look at any other committees like the planning commission just came to mind?
All paid.
Has to be elected.
Okay.
They have to be
That's what I
elected
was
officials
wondering.
based on, we looked at the Fair Labor Standards Act, we looked at the workforce and work labor. We also looked at the IRS code. I mean, we have tried to look at every, Commissioner Stevens brought up some very good points about the IRS tax code as it relates to medical benefits and health benefits and how they're claimed. And Josh said that each commissioner would just have to talk to their tax advisor on that just to make the decision that was best for them, whether they do this or stay with their own, because he said that was just really outside of it's outside of my skill sets to give you IRS. But he said that that would be something you need to talk about that. But so the reason is because when you look at it, an elected official, there's an exclusion under that doesn't consider an elected official as an employee in their elected official capacity. And so a road board who is there, to serve at meetings, even though I suspect many of the commissioners work very many hours, on county business, it's being in the office day in and day out and day in and out is what they look at as an employee, so to speak. It's working on site using the employer's equipment, which would be their computer, their desk, their office, and their operations is what they typically will look at to classify somebody as an employee.
Well, Mayor, go ahead.
So if this was an opt-in, opt-out for those elected officials, would they, another question, would they be able to opt in now, or would they have to wait till the next open enrollment period?
This one's a little clearer because if they're made eligible for the plan, they can opt in on the date that they become eligible. Just
So
like an employee.
upon passage of the full commission, if it went that far, then they could opt in at that point?
Correct.
Okay.
They would have 30 days
As
to
of their
do so.
eligibility
That's what I
date.
said, 30 days.
So like, once the commission approved it and we had the date, and a notice was sent out to the commissioner saying, you can participate in this plan if you so choose, they would have 30 days. If you don't opt in within the 30 days, then it's not eligible then until the next open enrollment cycle.
Right, and the reason that's different from the life plan is because the life plan, they're already eligible. Not necessarily notified, but they were eligible, so we can't say, well, you're just now eligible.
The only other comment I'd like to make is, a discussion like this comes up in the future, we'll make sure we have our attorney here, because I've got some specific questions about this as far as conflict of interest goes. Of course, he'll be at the full commission meeting, and I'll be able to do that, but you please tell him to be prepared to answer those questions for us. And like I said, I don't know how this is going to go here or pan out, but like I said, in the future, let's please bring our attorney in if we're going to discuss something along this line.
Can you tell us under the conflict of interest what your thought process is, so
Well,
we ask him so he can be
They're
prepared?
voting on a benefit.
Right.
That's theirs.
Okay.
Exactly.
How do the other counties, they had to vote on it, I suppose?
And I had,
Stand up
Lois and I had talked
Their
about.
Rule 10 or read out.
Lois and I had talked
Read
about
them
that
all
today,
fair.
actually, because we were thinking, you know, when anything that goes through the insurance committee, the voting members, which I don't have a vote, and there's several of us that are there that don't have a vote, but we're there to be able, you know, to listen to the committee and provide, you know, some feedback or ask questions. But there are a lot of members that vote, and if I'm remembering correctly, there's 3 commissioners, there's several department heads, there's employee representatives, there's people from the highway, the school board, you know, there's several there. And I asked her, I said, you know, I said to Lois, I said, wonder if this would, how this would come up on the voting process. But then I thought, well, in the insurance committee, all of those employees are voting for what we vote for already. And I just didn't know if it was a different conflict of interest for an employee to vote on a benefit that they would have versus an elected official to vote on a benefit they would have. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What I'm saying? So I don't know how that would be different.
It wouldn't be as different as it is now if you're a county commissioner and your wife is a teacher.
Same thing.
It's the same.
And I think that's what he was saying, is that on those instances, they all read their conflict of interest statement.
Well, we did in the past, now we
And they
don't.
don't.
We're not allowed to vote if we have money going directly in our pocket. We don't vote at all on an issue like that. And we can vote as a general, so that the whole budget as a whole. But if there's an individual line in there where it's gonna make a difference on income coming directly to me, then I can't vote on it. That's the way I understand it. And as I said, that's why I
That's
wanted
what
our
I
attorney
need.
here.
Yeah, we will ask him that.
Sure.
I don't know that he
Has
did.
this been to any other committee, or is this the first?
We went to steering committee with it,
Steering,
and it was brought up at the insurance committee, just, I think as a courtesy to say, hey, this is coming forward, and wanted you to be, you know, the insurance
Yeah.
committee to be aware.
Insurance committee took no action.
What was Michael Rather had a question about being an employee. He's self-employed. Did we get that answered?
We did. Here this is. So there's actually currently in place when, I want the second one. Oh, that's okay. I got it.
All good?
Yeah. So currently when an employee goes on the health insurance, and if they want to add a dependent, their spouse, their children, or otherwise, there are some criteria that they have to meet, which is the spousal health, well, it's really for the spouse, not the dependent, so it's dependent verification, which is different. But the spousal eligibility affidavit is one of the things that they have to complete, okay? And so it asks some various questions. I highlighted the one in yellow, and Lois will have to take this back before the insurance committee, because obviously this would be a new form, and this would be an updated form, and this was the recommendation to solve Commissioner Rather's question about if your spouse is a teacher, is the example he used, if my spouse is a teacher and this is offered to me, now when my spouse has to complete this form to put me on the plan, and I'm self-employed and I don't have insurance through my business operations, am I going to be required to say that I have insurance available to me through my employer? Is Rutherford County my employer? And the answer to that is no. So to kind of solve that so that they would take the gray out of it, for the spousal eligibility for the employees, the number 3 was added, my spouse is self-employed, and to take care of that answer. So let's just say, you know, your spouse was a teacher and you were currently on the county's health insurance through that, and she had to complete this form, then you would not be and you had your own business, you would not be, the county would not be your employer. So it would say my spouse is self-employed and does not have medical coverage through their company, and then you have to provide that information. That was already in there as a bullet point, but we highlighted it and took it out and made it its own class. If the insurance committee, again, this has to go through the insurance committee before final approval on that. But just thought that that would clarify it more. Then there's another form that we created that says for the elected officials, the county commissioners, school board and road board members. And what this is if you as the county commissioner wanted to put your spouse on the insurance because they're self-employed or you have your own business and you don't offer insurance through your business, So now it's kind of in the reverse. You're the person that has the access to the insurance, but your spouse doesn't work, okay? So you have your own business, but you don't have insurance. Then that's where this came in, that you would have to do the same thing to say, either my spouse has access to insurance, they don't have insurance. Because currently, you know, the insurance committee a while back removed spouses from our ability to participate if they had access to other insurance. And the reason for that was for the cost savings to help with the premiums and help offset the expenses. So that's how this form came to be from that process. And so they have to sign an affidavit saying my spouse doesn't have access to other insurance, or my spouse does have access. Either way, it includes them or disincludes them, either way. And so this would be for the elected officials, which would be a totally separate form to make sure that that clarifies. So that was his question.
This form allows you to add your wife on as long as you pay the full premium, right? They came off in 2015, I believe, but you can still add them on.
Right. You have to certify.
Only if they don't have
They don't
access to
have
other
access.
Correct.
Right. And they have to certify it, and they sign it.
That's
And there's,
correct.
the member, and that's where the SPD comes into play, because then it will no longer say employee, it will say member, and member will include county commissioner, school board, elected school board official, and elected road board official. Does that make sense? Let me see if we took some notes. That life insurance, you want to talk about there was a question about Commissioner McAdoo when we were talking about the life insurance. Commissioner McAdoo brought up that you couldn't do cross-insure, so like if I had insurance if I had insurance available to me, my spouse couldn't take out insurance on me too if we both worked for the county. And somewhere along the way, we believe that Commissioner McAdoo may have not been formed correctly, so go ahead.
Yeah, and it's insurance on, like the spouse would take out insurance on themselves with you as beneficiary, whereas you would take out insurance on yourself with your spouse as the beneficiary. And that's legal. That's not cross-applying the insurances. Commissioner McAdoo had a concern about that. We do have an exclusion for the health plan, whereas now, well, it used to be when the spouses were eligible to enroll, two were employees. If they tried to both enroll in the health plan as the subscriber rather than just the member, we couldn't allow that because you can't have one health plan being primary and secondary on the same member. So for the health plan, it doesn't work, and that may have been what he was alluding to. For life insurance, it does work because it's two separate insureds and two separate beneficiaries.
So, let me put, so, if my husband worked for the county and I'm an elected official, I could have coverage on myself and on him, and as an employee, he could have coverage on himself and on me?
No.
No.
Okay, you could
that
have
was what-
coverage on yourself for his benefit, and he can have coverage
Singular
on himself for
policies.
your benefit.
Yes.
Okay, so, but that, I think that was what McAdoo, it seems like that was what he was talking about. Is that not right? Because we've never had the health insurance, so health insurance wouldn't be it.
Yeah.
Right. But it was I think what we were getting lost in, it was basic versus additional life.
Okay.
And so if you were to purchase a health insurance policy for yourself, or the county provided it, you couldn't then purchase, or he couldn't purchase additional life on you if you were purchasing additional life on yourself. So you can't have two separate county policies insuring one person.
Yeah, that's what it felt like that was the
Question was-
cross that it felt like he was talking about.
Okay.
I think.
That makes sense. Okay, let's see. Okay, and then the life insurance. So then one of the things in doing all this research,
Right. We found that we have kind of a mess in the life insurance right now. And actually this has been an excellent exercise because it's identified some areas where we need to do some cleanup. the basic life has been offered to the commissioners as far back as we can tell is 1992, maybe even before then, but we were able to confirm back to that date. Unfortunately, while it was being offered to the county commissioners, our SBDs did not support that. It did not list them as an eligible person. So we have examples of 2 amendments, and we can pass this around. I guess I should have put the rear one first, where in with the 1/1 effective date, 1/1/2017, it was added to the summary plan description under the standards to change the definition of member to read as an active county commissioner who is an elected official, full-time employees, and so forth and so on. So it just said added on the county commissioner. We would need to change that going forward to all of the road board and board of ed as well. The problem was that this was found after 1/1/2017, and so was approved actually on December 7th, 2017, and dated backward to 1/1/2017. Then there was another amendment done, approved 1/7/19 and dated back to 1/1/2017, that made the coverage contributory. Up until that point, it was not considered contributory because the commissioner was in the same class as the employees who it was provided for. And so this last amendment removed the county commission from that class and just said for that one group of members, then it would no longer be contributory. And this was made retroactive back to 1/1/2017. So it all looks kind of messy, but I think we've got a handle on what's going on in there now, and we'll have to get SPDs changed and make certain that we have all the documentation and the forms appropriate to what we're trying to achieve. And this will have to go back in front of the insurance committee, just these changes to the SPD and these amendments, so that we can be certain that it's codified, that it's been approved through the process to make these changes and put them into the summary plan descriptions.
So we went back through the 3 months prior to January 1/17, the 3 meetings prior to January 1/17, and we went back to the 3 meetings prior to the January 7, 2019, and it was not in the minutes that the insurance committee approved these changes. I think that was all. We were asked to research. If there's anything else you want to know, you'll have to tell us, but, or if there's any questions about any of it.
Just, if you don't mind, give me another very quick summary on what benefits the commissioners would be able to opt into. There's life insurance you were just talking about. If there are any other, please just go right down the line.
Okay, so life insurance has been as far back as 92 as we can tell. So you're eligible for that already. And that is, the summary plan document does include that as we sit today for the commissioners. It would just have to be updated for road and school board. You are eligible to participate in the 401k and 457, which we found that out today. I was not aware that that was an option until today. And so that is something you can do immediately as well. If approved through the commission, the health insurance, the medical, the dental, the vision, and some of the supplemental programs would be available. I mean, the short-term disability and long-term disability, we don't believe would be, because you're not classified as an employee and not earning a regular salary. So, but the cancer and accident and those type things, additional life insurance and things like that. So if the commission approved, but it would all be at the full premium for each of those categories.
Okay. Well, what's the will of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Harris is here. He brought this to steering, and I'd like to see if he has anything to say about it.
Thank you, Robert. If this had any adverse effect on the county, I would not even bring it up. but there is 100% paid by us. There is no contribution from anything. There is precedent because the state representatives do this as well as the state senate and offer this. I talked to, which they already told you most of it. We talked to Cigna and Mercer, and it won't affect the group. So, and they explained to you pretty much on that. All I'm simply doing is asking that we have the, the ability to buy into the group. And that's all that I'm asking for. There's absolutely no money coming out of the county whatsoever.
Any other discussion, questions?
Does it start and does it start here and then go to insurance, or would it go from here to the full commission?
We'll go to the
Commission
commission.
next week.
That'd be a good public relations, go on to make sure that the employees were aware of this, that we weren't voting to give ourselves something at their expense, so. Do you agree with that, Mark? Because there's this elephant in the room about the spouse being taken off before, so,
And it's, as we mentioned, that's why I wanted to make sure I was very clear. I don't want to mislead anybody. The plan is large. Cigna has told us that they feel like the group as a whole, because it's so big, can handle the extra 20, 30 people that may or may not come onto the plan. Because the commissioners would be paying their full premium, the county would not be offsetting that premium with taxpayer dollars to offset the premiums. So that is true. But that was the one thing that we was talking about. The only thing that could impact it all is utilization, because we're self-funded. And self-funded is like having a checking account. The premiums go into the bank and the utilization writes the check. And so that's the easiest way I can say it. So, there are other factors that are put in place to ensure, to help make sure that we don't go over those that are just kind of getting way off into the weeds. And
you have some stopgap measures for that?
we do.
Okay.
And so that's one of the things that offset that. But, that's why we said that if you did this, it would need to follow the same plan requirements as it would for the other members, which are employees of the plan, to make sure that they had the same criteria. Your spouse could not be added if they had other, that just would not be fair to the employees to do that. Knowing that we took that measure to make sure that we helped keep the premiums lower because of utilization. So.
And this would be the county commission, school board, road board.
And that's it.
And that's it. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we allow the commissioners, school board, and road board to participate in these plans.
Okay, we have a motion and
Second.
Second, Commissioner Johnson. Mayor.
I was just going to get Lois to explain that there is a capitation or a stop loss. If you don't understand insurance, there is a stop loss. You want to explain that, Lois?
Yeah, so being a self-funded plan, as Sonia said, we get the premiums, that fills up the checking account, the claims take out of it. Should we have a large claim, which that's what we worry about, if we have a lot of adverse experience, that can cause us to have a bump in our utilization and take more out of the checkbook than is in it. And so we have protection in place for that. Due to the size of the group, the protection is set at $750,000 currently. So any claim below $750,000 comes out of the checkbook. Anything above $750,000 goes to a third-party carrier.
So it's like buying insurance.
Right.
To cover anything in excess of that $750,000. So if the bill was at $1.5 million,
right,
then
they'd pay $750,000 and we'd pay $750,000.
So in layman's terms, that's a rainy day fund somewhere out there, basically.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. We pay insurance for that piece of it. And $750,000 sounds like a lot of money. I understand that, but it's very rare that you have a claim that high. And then, I think, given the size of this group, and I'll say maybe two, possibly, that could get that high, and then they're covered above that. And because the group is so large, then it can absorb those kind of bumps. I'm not saying it wouldn't, there's no chance of any impact, because there is, but it's.
Very slim.
It's very slim, yes.
And with the medical world anyway, you know, you have to look at the insurance every year. That's
Yeah.
why the insurance committee looks at it every single
We
year.
track the claims every single month and keep projections going all the time so that we have an idea of what's going on in the plan.
Mr. Chairman, I'm comfortable with this as long, you know, and y'all have allayed my confusion and fears there that at no expense to our employees. We just, you know, I wouldn't feel right about that. So I feel comfortable with this.
Ms. Nolan?
And I had,
Oh,
I had
excuse me,
some,
go ahead.
I had some thoughts previously after reading the minutes of the steering committee and everything, you know, but I don't have any problem.
That was better explained today.
Yes, I have a better understanding. Thank you, ladies.
The only point I was going to make, you know, we're concerned, or the concern is for 35 new subscribers, potential subscribers, but some of them are already on the plan.
Yeah.
But you don't think about every year when the school board brings their budget, is at least another 100 new people coming in, another 100 subscribers. I was gonna say prescribers, subscribers. So, I mean, we just don't seem to have that discussion when we add another 100 people at the board. Where's Jeff?
I do have a question.
Jeff has a question. Go ahead.
Okay, so in just the conversation a second ago, you mentioned a school board member, a commissioner who is already on the plan because of a spouse. What would happen? Would that school board member or commissioner then have to come on?
They don't have to go on this plan. They can still stay on their spouse's plan. That's what
Even
we're
though,
saying.
as an elected official, you're giving them eligibility to join.
Because they're not classified as an employee, so they don't have to go under as an employee. They would become a member under all the codes that we looked at, so.
Commissioner Allen?
Yeah, I just had a couple things. There is a distinction for me on those 100 new employees that would come on, because we offer employee insurance.
My
Right.
point was to affect of the plan.
Right. And so to say that there's absolutely no adverse effect to the membership or potential cost of the employees is really not entirely accurate based on everything you just said. There's a risk. We're making a decision to absorb a calculated risk on the possibility of there being, you know, low enough utilization. The whole reason that we took spouses off was because as we examined utilization, we were spending more money on spouses than we were on our actual employees. And so we felt a greater obligation to the employees than we did to their spouses. So we were trying to figure out a way to keep the cost down across the board for everybody. So, and I think that's part of what, you know, was discussed a little bit in the insurance committee, in that when we made the decision to remove the spouses, that was a painful decision for a lot of our employees, and a very unpopular one. And then recently, this commission voted to give themselves a raise, and, you know, and not that it wasn't justified. I'm not arguing that, you know, it's been 20 plus years. But I do think we need to be prepared for the thought that this could be a PR nightmare, even though it might be misunderstood that the premiums are being paid by us, you know, versus, you know, by the employees. There is some risk to the employees. There is some risk to the plans. You can't say it's 100% insulated just because we're paying the premiums. If you had a $750,000 claim, you'd have to pay in $1,000 a month for 750 months for the plan to come out equal. So anyway, I just want to make sure that we really understand thoroughly what this, you know, I won't be impacted by this at all, and I'm really fairly indifferent, except for I just want to be mindful of how this is going to be perceived by our employees and by the community, because the feedback that I've gotten so far has not been positive. So I just want to put that out there.
That's the reason I brought that up about the field.
Right.
And the amendment was to improve our eligibility. Where is it stated that we pay the premium? Is it stated in, will it be in the resolution? Will it be a resolution?
That would need to be in
And
there.
it'll state.
Probably needs to be in the
We need to plan a
motion.
document with it.
Does the,
You said contributory, so that's
I did.
the
Would
language.
you consider adding to that motion that it's stated in the resolution that I understand the premium must be paid by the elected official.
Yes, I thought that was, if that wasn't clear, then that would be that motion.
Okay, that's added that to the motion, and who's had the second on that?
Commissioner Johnson.
Johnson. Okay, and is that okay with you, Commissioner?
That's fine. Lisa, question, you were talking about maybe the 100 employees coming on with the school board and everything. Okay, now, that's just the members, that does not include their spouses this time, correct? So you would be.
No, I mean, if it, the same situation is if the new person coming on board as an employee, if their spouse does not have access to insurance, they get to come on.
okay.
Whoever's eligible.
They're eligible.
The same rules would apply.
Right.
Same rules apply.
But
Yeah.
if their spouse has availability to them for insurance,
They go,
they'd be
They go.
basically a single plan for them.
If their spouse works at
employee.
Nissan and
Right.
has access to insurance at Nissan, they gotta stay on Nissan.
But it could be employee plus child.
Correct.
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Okay.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I don't think there's going to be a lot of people who buy into the plan. Just for a single person, the premium is $648.64 a month. And that's 4 times what I'm paying right now for mine.
It's better coverage though too.
With great coverage, but there's gonna be, that would be a difficult decision to pay $400 or $500 a month. A copay plan with a member and a spouse is $1,362 a month. Member plus children only with no spouse is $1199.97 a month. And then the member plus the whole family is $1,881 a month. So that's a lot of money for somebody to pay out to get on this plan. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of people that even buy into it. I know I'm not going to. I'm fine with people having the option to do that if they choose, but, you know, for me personally, it would cost me a lot more money, so.
Is there any other discussion? The only thing I would say is, since I've been on here, on the commission, about the same time Commissioner Johnson and I have been here, there are a lot of people that have no insurance. And to me, this is it's a perk to them. It costs a lot being a commissioner, more than a lot of people realize, the time commitments and other things. So, I mean, I'm willing to vote for this, for those people. You know, I'm not going to utilize it myself. I have insurance and have other means of getting it, but I think that it's something that we should do for the other commissioners that would like that as an option. And the only thing that, you know, I wonder about is, you know, you've got one person can have a catastrophic injury, but we do have the stop loss built in. So that's my comfort zone on that. Any other discussion? There being none, we're going to call the roll on this one.
Commissioner Pearson?
No.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
No.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
5-2.
Motion carries 5-2. Okay. Lois, thank you.
I'm sorry, I thought there were 3 no's. Did you say 5-2? I thought.
5-2.
Craig.
2.
Okay. Our next agenda item is emergency management performance grants for emergency management. TK, there you are.
Hey, I've got 2 grants, actually. I'll start with the Emergency Management Performance Grant. Both of them are grants that we deal with annually. The first Emergency Management Performance Grant, we do certain reports. We're supposed to maintain certain levels of training and professionalism. It is a match grant. However, just our salaries alone more than overwhelm the match, so it's nothing to be worried about. It's for $69,350. Like most of the federal grants I deal with, everything seems to be in arrears. It says 2018, that's normal, as y'all know by now. Do you want me to go on to the other one, or you want to vote on this one?
Yeah, let's go ahead and vote on that. Are there any questions on this? If not, I'm going to ask for a motion.
So moved.
Commissioner Johnson?
Second.
Commissioner Pearson? Any other discussion? If not, call roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
The second grant is Homeland Security Grant Program for fiscal year 2018 for $94,645. This is once again an annual grant. However, the amount of this fluctuates year to year depending on the requests and the projects made by the subcommittees within the district, the Homeland Security District. Normally, the entire district gets, this year was just short of $700,000. The part of this that Rutherford County will receive, as well as some of the cities within Rutherford County, is, like I said, $94,645. What this goes to is equipment and projects and training to enhance Homeland Security based on their parameters. And if I have a few lists that goes on, there's like breaching tools, hazmat equipment, things of that nature that's being purchased by different agencies.
Is there matching on this?
No, ma'am. This is a good one.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Allen,
Second.
Mr. Stevens. Is there any other discussion?
This also includes a budget amendment to
Yes, I'm
recognize the
sorry.
revenue and the expenditure. So,
I meant to say that. Thanks, Mark.
Is that part of your motion?
It was.
And your second?
I heard.
That's what I thought. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch? Yes. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Gaines. We now have a general fund transfer for property assessors department. Mr. Mitchell.
All right. Good evening. This is great. Our request is to transfer $3,000 from overtime into the part-time budget to cover for a projected shortfall.
I make motion to approve.
Ms. Allen.
Second.
Commissioner Pearson. Are there any other questions or discussion? There being none, call roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great.
All right.
Come back.
You heard it all.
No, it's painless.
Okay, we now have a general fund budget amendment for the sheriff's office. Welcome, Ms. Brevin.
How are y'all? Need to recognize insurance money from vehicle accidents and put that in my new vehicle account. $68,628.
How many wrecked vehicles was that?
5. 3 are no fault, 2 at fault.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Allen. We have a motion, Piercy, second. Is there any discussion?
Were any of these out of county? Was there an accident out of county?
That's not been settled yet. That was not no fault.
But what
That
county
out of
was that
county,
in?
Canada.
Okay. How many people drive home vehicles from Rutherford County
0 now.
to other places? So they cut that program out? Okay. I didn't know if our insurance was good for covering people taking home vehicles far away or...
We have to go through counties, go to training and stuff, so I mean, insurance is insurance. A lot of them go to training, not in Nashville, not Knoxville.
Or they go to pick up a prisoner,
Prisoners.
expedite prisoner in Shelby County or something, driving them back, but
Well, sure, that's different though, like a scope of employment versus driving it home.
driving it home, I think the sheriff cut that out just last month.
Okay.
Well, just while we're on that, he and I had talked about that, and I know that was actually a concession that he felt like recently he needed to make in order to retain staff. And so I guess I'm just curious about what's the impact going to be on staff by eliminating that.
There were some exceptions, the SWAT team members and things of that nature. There were some exceptions, but the majority of people that drive out of county are good. I mean, it's good. It was like 10. Yeah, it's like 10. So I think everybody understands.
Okay, but he still
why
has the
policy
but he still has the
was.
ability to offer the exception on the cases that he feels like
Case
he
by
can.
case, so
Okay.
when it's heard, you know, they have to put on a pretty strong point.
Well, I just know too, you know, because as we go into the budget process, we're going to be talking about, you know, salaries, and I know, you know, we're losing a lot of folks because, you know, we're just the pay is becoming, a real issue. And so, and then housing is becoming an issue. And so, he told me he had an example of a deputy who had to move to Bedford County because he couldn't afford to build a house in Rutherford County. How do you punish somebody for that? You know what I mean? So I just want to make sure that he has the latitude to take care of the employees that he needs to, so that, because it's very expensive to replace these guys. You train them and, then launch them into a better paying career, and we've spent all that money invested in them. If we can keep them over something as simple as letting them drive a car home, I want the sheriff to be able to do that.
Well, there's exceptions.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? There being none, call roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes. Okay. Well, I believe you have the next one too. Please
Okay.
continue.
The next is an agreement that the mayor will be signing with the city of Murfreesboro. For years, we've been getting $25,000 to help control costs with our fingerprint, our APIS machine. It takes maintenance, it takes constant maintenance and updating. And with the new mayors and the new sheriffs and everybody, we needed to update that agreement with them. So they've agreed, they've sent, their attorneys have approved it, and as soon as we do this, hopefully we can get it signed. And it's just $25,000 they give us every year.
Is that a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Gooch sends a motion. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Dodd, Commissioner Dodd. Is there any other discussion? Being none, call roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
The second,
Excuse me, go ahead.
the second one is our special purpose fund. It's just to move $15,000 from restricted fund balance to the confidential account.
Okay. Are there any questions? This is something we routinely say. Commissioner Johnson has a motion.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Stevens. Any other discussion? There being none, call roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes. Okay, thank you, Ms. Preble. Now I have a general fund amendment for recovery court.
Yes,
And Lisa?
I'm taking this for a trade. This is to recognize revenue expenses awarded through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, the SAMHSA, for the grant, for a budget period of 9/30/18 to 6/30/19 for the original allocated grant funds and the allowed carryover amount of $39,500 from year one. Primary increases for the part-time peer support hours, increase carryover for NTSU, cost for staff training, and to attend a conference in Washington, D.C. So the result is an increase of revenue of $39,500, increase $17,000 for part-time, increase for in-service training $7,000. There's some benefits, also contracts with public agencies. That's the MTSU, $7,715, maintenance agreement $600, and in-service staff development of $5,884.
Do you know how many staff members are able to go for that price?
I'm not sure how many is required. I know it's a required trip with a grant to go to that go to the conference, but I don't know.
And it's,
I want to say 3. No, 2 I think is what that one is, but don't hold me to that.
I'm trying to think how many,
I can't remember what it
do we
was.
have 2 SAMHSA people and 1 BTC?
Is this the recovery court?
Yeah, but it's through it's the SAMHSA grant.
Right, so what was the question?
How many go
To training.
through this grant? I'll have, if
just
I
curious.
said to
it's
you,
2.
it would be a guess, but let me just follow up and see how many.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Commissioner Allen has a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. Commissioner Johnson, second. Is there any other discussion? she will bring us that information.
I'll email Trey. We'll get back and put you on that email.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes. Okay. Next is the Child Support Enforcement Grant Amendment for Juvenile Court. I believe Lisa's got that one too.
Yes, and this is one we've had for years. It adds another year to the contract to take us into the 1920 fiscal year. And this grant helps pay part of the salary of the magistrate that listens to the child support cases. We can receive 66% of his salary that's allocated to this purpose.
Is this just basically a housekeeping measure?
This is well,
Extended
it's an extended contract for
That's what-
another year of
that's what I meant.
the plan,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
of the program.
This is already in effect, we're just adding another year to it.
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Johnson, motion.
Second.
Mr. Stevens. Is there any other discussion or questions? There being none, call roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes. Okay, we have a general fund budget amendment for the agricultural extension. Is
I'll do
Ms.
it. I
Lisa?
didn't see it.
Okay.
Okay, this is a request to use their money in their committed fund balance of $5,000 to other supplies, materials, and this is to replace carpet in the USDA meeting room.
Motion approved. That's Commissioner Dodd. Do I hear a second? Pearson. Any other discussion? There being none, call roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes. Okay, now we have a general fund budget amendment for fire and rescue, and I think it's Larry, or is it Mr. Sloan?
Yes, sir, it is. Chief Farley is at a Chiefs conference in Jackson. So, I'm not sure, we're doing both of them in the one.
We can do all
The
three.
first one is the gasoline amendment.
All right, first one is, we'd like to increase our line item for gasoline by $3,600, take it from the county's line item for gasoline, the same amount. Second is, we sold a pumper truck, or excuse me, an old tanker truck, increase our line item for sale of equipment for revenue for $6,935, and place $100 of that in dues and memberships, and the remainder $68.35 in evaluation and testing, which is our training budget. And then finally, we'd like to move $15,000 from our other salary and wages into our part-time employee line item. We have a member who is active duty with the National Guard for training, and we're taking money and moving it into money from his that would be allocated for his salary and putting it into part-time, and he'll cover his spot with our PRN personnel.
Is that just for monthly meetings, or is that for deployment?
I'm sorry?
Is this person,
He's going to be gone for several months. He joined the National Guard, and he's undergoing his initial training.
Okay.
So I think he's projected to be gone through June.
Well, the reason I was asking, I remember several years ago, we did some kind of extension on, we had quite a few members that were going into Desert Storm, and we extended some of that pay. I wasn't sure if that might.
They get 15 days per year just for their routine training, like if it's a weekend training, they get 15 days for that. And then they're covered under other leave practices. And the way it works is if they're making less money at the reserve than they make with their county job, the county offsets the difference so that they're made whole while they're out training in the military.
All right, thank you. Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Sloan? There being none, we'll ask for a motion.
Motion to approve is presented.
Mr. Allen?
Second.
Mr. Dodd? Are there any other questions or discussion? There being none, call roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes. Okay, now, an application for community risk reduction grant for fire rescue.
Yes, sir. This is, as many of you are aware, there's two divisions of the Assistance to Firefighters grant. We received a grant for protective clothing last year. This is asking permission to apply for a community risk reduction grant, which is very similar to the one we got where we had the smoke detectors, where we're doing the smoke detector installation program. This project that we've got is a fire safety house. I'm sure you've seen them. Laverne's got one, I believe. Murfreesboro has one. It will be used for conducting fire safety training at schools, at like our community health fair every year when we do that. It's in the amount of $94,960, which has a 5% match, $4,521.90.
That's the county's liability, $4,500.
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson,
Second.
Mr. Gooch, second. Is there any other discussion? There being none, call roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Slaughter. Okay, Highway Fund Budget Amendment.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
What I have for you tonight is to move some money from our fund balance into our highway equipment line item to purchase a new piece of equipment. So we will be decreasing our fund balance and increasing our $68,141,714 line item.
What's the equipment?
It's an asphalt roller.
Off the state contract.
Yeah, it's off state contract. We didn't have to bid it because it's available to us to
Are we-
piggyback on state contract.
Are we replacing something or adding another?
We are replacing something. What happened, my intention was to have this piece of machinery in our upcoming budget. But we were given an opportunity to trade in the machine we have now at a very good price. So I'm going to go ahead and ask for this budget amendment to be able to utilize that trade value on our existing machinery.
That's already factored into this number?
Yes, it is.
This is the balance of what's left?
Correct.
After the trade?
Correct.
This was approved unanimously by the road board Monday, and with a $12 million balance still left in the ending fund balance, I'll make the motion to approve.
Mr. Johnson.
Second that. Public Works, likewise, unanimously
Mr.
approved.
Dodd. Any other questions or discussion? Being none, call roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. And let's see, general fund amendment for employee insurance, and I guess that's gonna be.
That's me. This is our February, shuffle? Shuffle. That's a good one. It's a February insurance shuffle. So there was, 9,000 available in the reappraisal budget that we are gonna move to the assessor budget. So that's kind of within those two, 9,000. And the other one is 11,000 for building codes, $50 for soil conservation, for a total out of our pool of 11,050.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Allen.
Second.
Commissioner Piercy. Is any discussion? There being none, call roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes. Okay, Lisa, I believe you have this next one too.
Yes. This amendment is to cover the payout of accumulated leave for our for an employee that is leaving, and then for a crossover position. This is in our insurance department. It was a 1-week crossover between the two. Money coming in, insurance fund pays this, so it's request is $5,970 coming in, with $5,260 into the director line item and the related benefits. $5,970 total.
Any discussion? Or questions?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Piercy, we don't have a whole lot of choice there, but do I hear a second? Commissioner Johnson. Any discussion? Okay, call roll, please.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Pete?
Yes. Okay, Lisa, we'll let you continue, please.
Okay, this next one is for, I guess was presented, I'll start it and let Mayor finish up, but this is on the courthouse renovations.
Oh, is that mine?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll take it. You want to go?
No.
I'll take it. Yeah, absolutely. I thought we were, so, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is a general fund budget amendment to fund the architectural and engineering fees on the renovation of the courthouse. I think we had 10,000 in the line item, so it's we're adding 30 to it for a total of 40,000.
Well, we're adding 40 to get to 50.
All right. Okay. So that's so that would come from unassigned fund balance. As you know, what we're doing is trying to move forward on the renovation of the courthouse. If you want to wait around a little bit later tonight, you'll see the problem we have outside the lake that gets created right outside the steps. You have to walk around because what has happened, the pavers have created a huge swell and depressed. So that'll be the removing of those existing pavers. We're reworking the existing stormwater drainage from the downspouts. We've gotten permission from the city to exit that water just out onto the streets. We'll paint all exterior surfaces that can receive paint on the exterior of the building. Since we've removed those trees, we found out there's additional damage probably around the windows where those hollies had grown up 3 stories and put pressure up against the brick. On the 2 additions, as you know or may not know, that was not the original courthouse. Those 2 additions where my office is, and I think where OIT is, they were done at a later time. But the last time they painted those brick and hand painted the mortar joints to match the original brick. So it all looks the same color. That has to be done, and the tuck pointing is, we've got some separation from the building up near the top of the eaves because the brick is over 150 years old and it's getting fragile, so they need to come back in and do the repair work on that. On our sewer line down underneath in the basement, going out to the sewer, Ben told us it's a clay pipe, and it's kind of got a swell in it, so it's not exiting. The solid waste is not exiting the way that it needs to. So we'll have to dig that up and run a new sewer line out to that would be the west street. I've convinced the city to, if they will, and they've agreed to it, they're going to go in and put in a new manhole for us for where our sanitary waste pipe goes to, so it'll be much easier for us to be able to get access back into our pipe coming back into the building. So install the paver, stone base. They have to put more stone and sand underneath that. They'll be doing the 8-inch sewer line, exterior printing, exterior painting, exterior painting on the cupola. The netting and the bird deterrent probably needs to be replaced. It's starting to rot and get holes in it from the birds up around the top of those Corinthian columns. Exterior lighting, and then on the interior is replacing the carpet in the stairwell that's wearing out along the steps. The carpet in the main chamber is still in excellent condition. It was $312 or $20 a square yard, loomed in London back when we did the renovation back in the 90s. But I believe Mr. Klein is here, whose architect firm did this in back in the 90s, and I think his dad and mother, his mother helped pick out a lot of the decorations on the inside, but his mother has identified a loom or a carpet place down in Georgia that can replicate the same pattern that we currently have, but it won't be at the 300, won't be all wool, it'll be synthetic, and they say that the synthetic will last us, the nylon synthetic will last us much longer than what the wool does. It just wears that much faster. Doors and windows resealed and caulked and new pad. Installed acoustical ceilings in the areas that are damaged from leaks. We got some repair up on the flat roofing areas. And so basically what you're approving tonight is the architect and engineer fees. And then they can go to work putting together what our total cost will be that we'll bring back to you at that point in time. This came out unanimous, I believe, with property management last week.
So we would have another chance to look at the fee
The numbers,
for that.
that's correct.
Could say yes or no, or
That's correct.
partial.
Yeah, but
This is to get us a
as
solid
directed,
number.
you all directed me to get the architect and engineer on first and let them put out an RFP and see what our prices are going to be.
And the 50,000 total would be an anticipated cost.
That's correct.
For these fees, and that's based on a percentage of the anticipated cost. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Where'd the estimate come from that appeared in the paper said it could possibly be a little over $500,000 for renovation?
We did an estimate in-house.
Is that close to correct?
Yes, the issue with old buildings like this is, as you guys know, as you start getting into them, they're old buildings. And they take gender care like old people. So we put a number to it, we feel comfortable with it. We hope to get everything in there that we would like. So what we'll do is we'll do the drawings, we'll probably put alternate bids in the drawings to give us some items that we could possibly take out. So we have that option if something comes in a little bit more, but hopefully we can cover it with that happening as well.
Is this building on the historical register?
It is.
Yes, sir.
Is there not any federal grant money we can pursue to help do this?
I do not know.
Do you think that's something we ought to look at before we get
Well,
started?
yeah, well, we can see if there's any grants out there available. We are one of only 4 courthouses built prior to 1850 or 1860 that are still standing. Others have been built after that, but there are only 4 of them left in the state. I think Main Street's excited about it because they see as an opportunity of making the courthouse what she should always represent, and it reflects on the other businesses for the downtown business area as well.
But how long would it take to check about federal grant money, if it was any available for us or not?
Well, I mean, I've got my note to get Wary about to search.
She
see
can
if there's-
search that. We can find out before the commission meeting next week if there's anything available.
I'm not against fixing the courthouse.
Sure.
I truly believe it needs to be kept in a very good state. But I'm having a little trouble spending $500,000 on this project overall, probably.
Yes, sir.
While we've got employees leaving our EMS, our fire, our sheriff's department, going to other counties, doing the same jobs for more money.
Yeah.
I've got just a little issue with that.
Okay, Commissioner, wait till we get into the budget and I'll make a recommendation to you about an overall salary bump, okay? But this money is already in the budget. We have over $2 million from the development tax sitting in the line item that we can take that $525,000 from. Hopefully it'll come in less than that, so it's already in this year's budget. And that's what it was, that money was set aside for, is to spend for projects, capital projects such as this. So I didn't have a problem in bringing it forward to you tonight when the money's there for that single purpose, and to keep something, a jewel that everybody talks about. When you come into town, you stop at the Chamber of Commerce. If you're a visitor or like history, they say you need to hit 3 things: as the battlefield, the historic courthouse, and Oakland's Mansion. If you go to Smyrna, you need to go to the Sam Davis Open. So
basically, this money's not going to penalize any of the employees, any of the departments or anything.
We're only talking, not only, it's 50,000, but we're talking about 40,000 for design in this conversation. Is that correct? We're not talking about.
No, we're not. No, in this conversation, we're not spending that money right now.
I want to really digest what the renovation could be.
But hadn't you rather have this discussion now than after we waste the 40,000 and not do it?
Well, the 40,000 gives us numbers to have a conversation for. I'm supporting you in being very cautious with what are we going to do here, but I want to be sure we know the extent of what we may do to have that number to debate on. So again, I support your philosophy.
Well, I'm not against it at all. You know, if we had money piled over here in this trash can that we just couldn't spend, where we didn't need it on anybody else or anything else that maybe was a little higher up the priority list, I could give you the whole can.
Sure. I just want to be
But
clear,
you know,
we're only looking at the 40, not the 5.
Oh, I know that.
Okay, that's where I'm at.
Well, but I think your point on the grant money is really well made in that, you know, the money that you're talking about spending can conceivably be used on other projects within the county. The courthouse, but I mean, the courthouse itself is uniquely positioned for grant money. And I hate to miss an opportunity to go get free money from somebody else that, or even matching funds, you know, something out there than us footing the entire bill alone. The thing I will say about the design fees is that just like with schools, a lot of times when we get ready to do a school, or we think we might do a school, we'll say, let's go ahead and spend the money on the design because we can always just keep that on the shelf because that design's not going to change. So from that point alone, I wouldn't have problem spending the design money. And then in the meantime, let's be seeing how much grant money is out there and how much we can get. Don't you have a grant writer in your office?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've got, I know, Reba. You know, to search that out to see if there's anything available.
Yeah, because the design won't change. I mean, this building is what it is, and it needs what it needs. So whether we do that now or we spread it out over 3 years, 5 years, whatever, the design will remain solid. The design remain, you know, so.
There is some issues that really the sewer really needs to be addressed with this building.
There's some urgency on some things.
And also the flooding, as you can see when you go out, everything's starting to wash out on those pavers. You're eventually going to get into a liability issue with it. So I would at least take care of some immediate items. Sewer being, nobody likes backed up sewer in a courthouse.
Well, and I think that's another great point. I think it's important for us to prioritize what needs to happen and in what order. You know, just like again with the schools, we asked them to put out a 5-year plan. You know, maybe we need to put out a 3-year plan over. You know, maybe we can't do it all in 1 year. You know, if my house needs new windows, new roof, new carpet, I might not be able to do it all in 1 year. You know, but there is definitely a cost to deferred maintenance, and you know, we don't want things to continue to deteriorate. So, I completely agree the importance of it. Yeah, I don't want to lose the opportunity to get grant money for something when there's so many other things we can't get grant money for. So.
And just to clarify, the items we highlighted, it's not going above and beyond. It's really maintenance. You know, the vanities down in the bathroom, they got their issues. It's not like we went in there and said, hey, replace these vanities because, you know, they're outdated. It's mainly all maintenance items. So.
Okay. Are there any other questions or discussion? We'll entertain a motion.
I want to move to approve the design fee as presented.
Commissioner Gooch has a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Johnson for design fees. Is there any other discussion? Okay, let's call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes. Okay. Our next item of business is the general fund amendment for archives addition.
This is a request from the general fund, an amendment to fund the architectural and engineering fees for the addition onto the archives building.
They approved it y'all approved this last month. We're
Right.
just now, this is the amendment to move the money.
Yeah.
And the request is to recognize that additional development tax money that's come in and use that, and that transfer to other funds is setting up the project.
And the PBA has
It's
accepted
handling
it.
So this is a housekeeping measure.
This is now funding,
Yes,
putting the money in
right.
place for what y'all approved last
Right.
month.
Putting it in effect.
That's correct.
So moved.
Mr. Johnson, motion? Anybody here second?
Second.
Mr. Gooch. Is there any discussion?
How much of the material that we're bringing in is from the sheriff's office?
Do what now?
John's still here? John, how many
Square feet.
What was the question?
how many square feet? I think John told us how many boxes.
What's the volume coming from the
What's the
sheriff's
volume coming? They have a full tractor trailer. It's currently full at the sheriff's department, and then we're renting space at
3,000
There's
square
about
feet, isn't it?
5,000 square
I
feet.
was gonna say total.
down in Laverne in a
Files.
warehouse, and we have to pay every time the deputy goes to Laverne to pull a file. They pay to pull it, they pay to bring it down here to us, and then we have to pay to put it back in the file in Laverne, so that will all disappear. Plus, I think,
There's about 5,000 total.
Yeah.
In Melissa Harrell.
Melissa's got
And
some of the
sheriff's
court
department.
documents. So it'll be Melissa Harrell and the sheriff's court documents. Of course, Melissa's going through and trying to,
Merge some of her documents.
yeah, she's trying to go through those, and then she's going to shred what is not needed. But the sheriff's department, it's forever.
And then also got some in
They say
in our
there's very
building.
little
Our
in the-
basement's full.
in the tractor trailer.
Your basement's full?
It's
My
out
basement's
location
full.
of the jail that they can purge. Of course, we're looking at scanning and documentation there, but all these records are, the sheriff tells us from his words, in the trailer truck as well as down in Laverne, they have to be stored.
And the sheriff's records can't be, the courts won't accept them
Right,
scanned.
they have
to be the actual
in that format.
document.
Is that the old inmate records?
It's cases,
Some of them are cold case, some of them are.
murder, whatever they have.
That has to be kept by law.
I mean, I just like to know if we were able to scan some of that stuff and get rid of the originals.
Well, I asked the same question, but they tell me that we can.
I know the state law, there was a talk at one point about asking the state to make it to where you could scan those old
It
records and
never
purge.
passed. Yes, sir, I remember that.
I wonder if there's a bill or something up there that we could tack an amendment on to let us do that.
Well, I'm sure every year, every committee chairman, being the House or the Senate, always has 2 or 3 caption bills that opens the entire caption, for whatever that would be pertaining to. It's just finding, Judiciary Committee chairman willing to use one of those bills to do that. You'd have to get some support, but I think it'd be awesome.
So
Save
then
a lot of counties a lot of.
If we didn't need to do as big of an expansion, we might be able to save some money if we were able to scan those documents.
Yeah, but I wouldn't count on that right now. Getting passed between now and the time they go home in April.
I guess what's the cost of trying to pass something like that and waiting a year versus doing it now?
Well,
it's our storage fees and.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. What you said it costs us each time. What's it running us? Like, what's it? You have any
About
idea?
$600 a month. It's $500 a month for the rental in Laverne, but with the pulling of the files and replacing back into the files, sheriff tells us around $600 a month.
That's not as bad as I thought you were going to say.
Well, that's a
but
lot cheaper than
yeah.
building a new archive.
Yeah.
How many square foot is the addition?
11,000.
11,000.
11,000, and we're headed there with 5,000 to 6,000 of product now.
We still got a little room now, so it'd be an additional, I think, 2,000 square feet into the new part is what Mr. Lovell says will be occupying as soon as it opens.
So we'll have 9,000 left empty for future use.
Yeah, but some of it's not over there. That's what Mr. Lovell said. And
Is
the
it the
2,000 will be put into the new space of that 11,000 right now.
And the mobile racks that they have hold more than the same 5,000 that we have in boxes because of the way the rack system is.
Yeah. Is there anything in that archive building that we don't have to keep, like, that we're just storing there for?
I asked him that question yesterday, and he said everything that they have. I mean, I pulled a book off and went back to 1828, you know, property records, and a lot of people come in and research that as far as family tree and who owned what property, etc.
But I heard at one point they took in a bunch of old newspapers from the Daily News Journal.
They do have those.
And, you know, I would love to keep those, but.
Yeah, they're all leather bound. I did see those.
How much space does that take up?
Well, they're leather bound. The books are about this big for the whole year for the DNJ for 1945. I thought it'd be kind of cool to go back at some time and open that up and see what it said about World War II, or, you know, what was happening on D-Day in 1942. You know, it has all those.
Well, I
those
agree,
numbers.
but can that go to MTSU, or do we have to keep it in our archive? Can that go somewhere? Can we free up space by getting things that we don't have to keep by sending them to somebody else that could keep them for us?
Well, John Bragg Center out there, we just have to ask that question if they'd be willing to take all our stuff. I don't know.
Well, not all, but I mean,
they're very, very
things are-
historical. I mean, that's
Sure.
something we definitely want to keep, but we don't
Things
have
of
to keep it
community
here.
interest, you know, community interest would be the D&J, things
Sure.
like that, not inmate records.
Right, the old court files, and we have to keep those ourselves, but if there's anything in there that we don't have to keep, that someone else could, we can clear some space out. Sure, it might be worth looking at that before we spend all this money on a new archive building. I mean, I want to preserve the records and keep the history, but I don't want to spend money on something if we have ways to avoid that. And I don't know when the circuit court clerk's going to go to e-filing, but the chancery court clerk is, and eventually that's going to be mandatory. So there's not going to be a bunch of new paper files coming in from the courts over there if circuit court will go to e-filing too.
So, Mr. Pine, with this addition, you think it'll last us another 15, 20 years?
Yeah, we're being told by the archives 20, 30 years. They're also looking at microfilm, stuff going on the microfilm, and so an add alternate into this project is to build a small space for that. It's got to have its own requirements, but I think it kind of does what you're wanting to do at a different level, basically taking the big and making it small. But from what I understand, there's requirements on the archives where they can't do a lot of that stuff, and they have to keep the hard files.
The sheriff's department basically is, from John Odom, they're gonna try to segregate it into one level. And that's all gonna be sheriff's department because of the mass mountains coming in. There's a great issue right now that trailer is leaking in that trailer truck. And so, it's just a patched up job right now. And so we've got to do something about those records before we're told from the state to do something about those records.
Is this amendment for, likewise, like the previous conversation, this amendment is written so that it's design fees?
That's what y'all approved last
That's what you approved last
month.
month.
All this is just moving the money.
And well, we haven't, the 1.7, the building the archives building, we're having a conversation about what its size needs to be. Will we have an opportunity to have this conversation after the design comes through?
Yeah, because there will be no funding.
Funding for the building. This has already been hashed over quite a bit.
Yeah, we
in property management.
quite thoroughly, but I think
Remember that,
Mr.
Jerry?
Stevens is asking some great questions. I'm wondering when we have an opportunity to fully vet those questions before we pull the trigger to build the building. Is that correct?
That's why we separated last month, just for the design fee and then the rest of the fee later.
Gotcha.
Okay, is there any other discussion? We do have a motion and a second. And there being no other discussion, call roll, please.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Mr. Gooch?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Peake?
Yes. Okay, our next item is the general fund budget amendment for the judicial building renovation.
Okay, on this one, you saw it in October or November. This is, the PBA had entered into negotiations with Jerry Preston on the renovation of the old judicial building. This is a request for $56,000 from, what we had here is the restricted from capital. I'd like to change that. and setting up the project into the Capital Projects Fund, $56,000. The change, back in October, I wanted to use the amount that we had set in the fund balance. We've got enough money coming in the current year, just like the other one. I'd like to recognize the revenue coming in for the development tax. So instead of fund balance, I'd like to recognize the $56,000 in development tax 101-40285. Hit the revenue account number instead of the fund balance number.
Is there any discussion or any questions for Lisa on this?
Have we decided for sure what's going to go in this building yet?
In the judicial building?
In the old one?
In the old one? We definitely have. I talked to Alan Farley yesterday. He definitely doesn't want to go. He says he's good where he is. Said he never really wanted to go to begin with. But he's good. What we have to do, if we don't do anything else, we need to move OIT over to that building. If you've been in their offices upstairs, I don't know how. We got 2 people in each cubicle, you know, using the same desk.
They're on top of each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'd be choking somebody at the end of the day if I had to work under those conditions. I mean, it just, you know, fortunately they put their earbuds in and stay on their computer most of the time. So, you know, it's, we definitely need to move in that direction.
Can we put probation in there, like on first and second floor?
Yes, sir. We talked to the PBA about that tonight with Jerry, and so that's a possibility to put probation over there. You know, otherwise, I talked to made a presentation to the judges and about putting Trey over on the 4th floor of the new judicial building. He needs about 12,000 square feet. And when I met with the judges, you would have thought I shot the Pope. Because they do not want, they don't want probation over there, and they think they're criminals. And I told them that I didn't think they were criminals because you would have sent them to jail, but you put them on probation, so they're not that bad a person. They didn't laugh at that either. So I'm not gonna go down that road with the judges.
Well, we need those courtrooms anyway because we're adding every 2.6 years a new judge.
Well, it's only going to be for general sessions because I'm here to tell you that you're not going to get another circuit judge because that's all political. It took me 16 years to get this last circuit judge, and when Governor Wilder and Jimmy Navy, when I first got there in '02, I asked Governor Wilder to get me a new circuit judge, and he came back and he goes, "Oh, I talked to Jimmy. Jimmy doesn't want me to have more judges than one of these guys." So they each had a map of who had what circuit judges. So that's political. Now, general sessions, yeah, we'll probably go into that. So it's a possibility. We can bring probation over here. The thing is, and keep in mind, the clock is ticking because Chancellor Wilson owned the building that we were leasing, the old Sturkey's building down there on West Main, where probation is currently located. He sold that week before last to a firm out of California that wants the ground space underneath the building. So we have about 1.5 years left on the existing lease that we have for Mr. King. So we need to start moving in some direction of where we're going to place probation and have a short window. So the old judicial building might be the best place, give them 1st and 2nd floor, put Brian and OIT up on the 4th and 5th floor. They would prefer to be there anyway because of their being up higher and their microwave or you know, routers, everything, you know, wireless. You know, they would prefer to be up higher than down lower under the concrete.
So the $56,000 design fee, I just wanted to be sure that they kind of knew what we wanted to put.
It's not a design. No, it's not design. It's for owner's rep.
Owner's rep.
So I just want to be sure if there was a plan, like.
It's Jerry Preston, and of course they're waiting on us to give them some kind of signal. Mike Picklesheimer said today, Mr. Vaught, they said just tell us what you want us to do, but we're going to have to engage him, Mr. Preston, and that's what we're doing here
Because he's
today.
at the end of his contract, right?
That is correct. There's no
Well,
more
his
money.
contract was
Yeah.
judicial building.
Right.
There's nothing for
For
this
this.
project.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion,
Second. A second, excuse me.
Dodd. Okay.
As presented with the change.
With the change.
To
Of
revenue.
course.
Okay.
That's what you said, but I just want to make sure.
See, that's why we sit beside each other. No, just kidding.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, call roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes. All right.
Can I request a 5-minute break?
I second, yep.
Oh, let's do it. Next order of business is the solid waste PIO position salary adjustment. And Mayor, I believe you're going to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been able to, I was given some history on this position. So this goes back to 2014. Dr. Greenwood at MTSU had a marketing class. Had two classes divided into 6 groups. 2 groups took on Rutherford County Solid Waste, trying to market themselves with an advertising campaign for solid waste. All 6 of them did well. The lesson learned from the experience was that we were not loud and proud, but just our jobs were under the radar. And that's what they came out, these students did. So it was evident that recycling was not a topic on the minds of our general citizens as far as recycling. We've tried it, even going back to when I was on the county commission, and we started Recycle Rutherford in 1992. We got, I think the first recycling facility in the county was Mr. Davenport in Smyrna. We convinced Bob Allard at that point in time, who was the general manager, and Jeff Phillips' boss at Heritage Dairies, to put up the money to buy the bins, and put down at the elementary school and started the recycling program. Tried it for a while. It would continue to go down because people would come by. They actually, Kroger put, or Heritage Dairies put dumpsters at the corner of Northfield at the Kroger, Broad and Northfield. And it worked very well for about 6 months, and then it just got to the point to where people were just dumping trash bags, and it was litter going all over the place, and the Kroger said we're moving it, so the only place we really had were at the convenience centers to recycle, and out on Haley Road. So back in the last administration, it was decided that the county would begin an intern program to develop a media program for solid waste. And it lasted about 2 years. The interns were housed in OIT and reported to Jeff Davidson and Brian Robertson's team jointly. From that experience, the previous deputy to the mayor wanted a PIO for the position, but there just wasn't enough money.
What's PIO stand for?
Public Information Officer. Currently, we have, at the Sheriff's Department, they have their own PIO, which is Lisa Marcioni, Public Information Officer, and the ambulance for, I don't know why, but Randy White, I believe, is the PIO for the ambulance department. But the county does not have one. So I envision this PIO position to not only work in recycling, but also to be the face and one voice, one common voice for Rutherford County. Let's back up to the Christiana tornado. You want somebody that's well polished, that represents the county well, to be in front of the camera talking about things that are going on, any type of an emergency, or we had the rioters when they came around the square. That would be your one-two go-to person to assimilate and give out the information of where the county was at that point in time. That's not going to take up all of their time, so it would also task them with taking care of the Twitter, all the social media, your Facebook, putting stuff on Facebook, everything, promoting the county, if you will, from the public information officer's position. Also, looking at what's going to occur after we get back from this trip going out to with Republic in a couple of weeks. When all the cities and counties and the county gets back and we start making a decision, whatever decision is going to be made, if we decide to move forward in some type of facility like they have in Sevier County, with Republic, it's going to take an educational process for this person to help organize, get to the schools, get to the businesses, work with the chamber. As far as recycling is concerned, how do we do that? If we were to come back and say we want to implement a program like they have outside of Las Vegas, where they funnel all of the food waste, which equates to 42% of the entire waste stream in the greater Las Vegas area is diverted from the landfill by going to this large hog production farm. So they feed all that waste from all the buffets and restaurants and everything to the hogs. They have over 7,000 hogs out there that they feed it to, and then they turn around and process the hogs and sell the bacon and the ham and the sausage back to the hotel. So it's a complete circle of life. You know, MTSU has a hog farm that they currently and have been running for a number of years that might be interested in looking at that. So it's going to take an educational person to organize all the schools, to bring the county together, the cities together, Smyrna, Laverne, Eagleville. They all seem to be excited about how this will be our first big step in handling the solid waste stream in our county. And I think this position will be the person to do that. We have the position that Mac had in his budget has gone unfilled since the beginning of the year. So we're now into February. So there's enough money in there because we're going to raise that position from 31,000 up to 60 some odd thousand for this PIO position.
31,890.
I'm sorry?
It was 31,890.
Okay. The perfect person that I was interested in hiring would have been Larry Flowers from Channel 2. He would have been a perfect face for Rutherford County and can help educate people well respected. But the police department in Mercer City swooped in and gave him $82,000. Which, like the city has more money than what we do. But I think it's time for the county to step up. We're now probably the fourth largest county in the state. We feel that we need somebody with a professional image, somebody that can work, can go into our schools and et cetera. So that's what I'm asking tonight.
There's no need for an amendment, as Mayor said. The position's been unfilled, except for 1 week in July.
So
we don't have to amend the budget.
and I understand that for this year, but for that 30,000, where would that budget come from ongoing in the next year, for instance?
If, from my view, my perspective, is if the majority of their time is going to be solid waste and that whole venture, I feel comfortable leaving it in the solid waste budget.
So we currently have a position, the Public Information Officer for Solid Waste?
Yes.
If you remember what I said at the beginning,
it kind of grew. It started from this marketing class and the internship part, and then put the position in, as he was saying, that
Who was the
Jeff
last person
Davidson.
to hold it?
Hannah Blaine.
Hannah Blaine.
And it was a media specialist. It was a little bit different. This is more responsibility.
Yeah, she went to work over in Franklin. They hired her away.
But she also did some things while she was here that improved her
Sure, she did. She created a Joy and Back show demonstrating Rutherford County solid waste dilemma, and a cartoon version of movie Under the Stars.
But she
Was that
got a
her?
lot of
Was that
certifications
her?
while she was here through team.
Was that her, Mike? Okay.
The Joey and Mac show was actually Hannah Kate, the first one.
Okay.
And that was when Joey Smith and I was gonna go to all the cities and explain our solid waste issue. So we recorded it, so everybody got the exact same message. The questions would be different. So she led that up, and then Tanya's idea, she took that same message and got with OIT with the city and created a cartoon version that was about 3 minutes long, and they played it, movies Under the Stars at the city. It was for the children. And of course it has all the same information in it, it's a whole lot quicker, and they're both online. And then Hannah Bleem has done the detective, the Ben Detective. She did 2 series of that, and they've done some stuff. And she's done a lot. We sent her for a lot of training. I'm big on training. FEMA and FEMA training. Some of it was online, some of it we had to send her to. Williamson County heard of her stuff because she did some stuff for the state, and they came and stole her from us. Went out and stole her. And she wound up with the job that we were intended to have here.
This will basically be another tool to, even though we're growing, this will promote Rutherford County.
That's correct.
Get more to come to Rutherford County, industry-wise.
Daily pushing Rutherford County, pumping out that information in conjunction with the chamber.
It's been another tool.
That just seems strange to come out of solid waste. Though.
That's what I'm trying to wrap my mind
Well,
around.
that's where I was shifted to.
I mean, if solid waste needed an intern, now we've got a PO.
The reason it started in solid waste was Jeff Davidson.
The marketing and the internship, I know. But
Right, we did that, but Jeff wanted to have a PIO position. Mayor Burgess was for that. Well, you can't hire somebody in a position unless you have a position available.
Well, could we hear
We had it.
a budget amendment in July, or a budget to have a PIO staff person? Now we've got an intern, we're creating a PIO for the county out of solid waste. Why?
The position, when the position originally started, it was intended to be, in the future, the PIO for the entire county.
It was. But it was called intern for waste
It's called media specialist.
We started as intern.
Waste management.
It was public relations and media specialist, and it was with a focus and emphasis on our recycling program, the landfill, environmental, but also it expanded from that. Once we got that kind of developed and underway, then we started the expansion, and then we started expanding into the FEMA and TEMA, so there was a lot of the certifications. With FEMA and TEMA, they offer a lot of classes that will give the public information that makes them, it kind of grooms them for the public eye, what to say, what not to say to cause, hysteria. And, there's just certain things that you've got to way to present it. So it's almost like they're going to reporter school, going through FEMA and TEMA without going to reporter school, or lack of a better way to say it. And so then once you get that piece, then that continues to build on what it does it mean to the county. So social media is where it's at, and that kind of incorporates.
So would this person go from solid waste to the mayor's budget in the future? Because right now, solid waste is training to be a
it could be
PIO.
that, the position, when Jeff Davis was here,
the need
wanting the PIO position, Mac had a position available that he gave out.
I just hate losing, because it's $32,000. I know we're talking, I'm having to put this in next year's budget. Mac had a $32,000 person. We're writing budget amendments for him, adding $50,000 a pop to take leachate out, and we're essentially adding a $32,000 pay item to him next year.
An effect
for a PIO, and you need $32,000 to move leachate. So why is it coming from you, or why are you presenting it? I'm just a little confused.
One of the top topics we have here in Rutherford County is going to be our garbage issue. We're going to have to settle that. So we need a person that can do that, and we had that person. Also, she was doing stuff for EMA and the fire department.
From your budget?
Mm-hmm.
It's all county tax dollars.
She was doing stuff for Paul's already. She was assisting them to help their adoption. She was also doing stuff with Megan Chapin, who is in the OIT, which helps with the web page and the development of web pages for different departments. She was doing stuff like that already, but it's just that when it was created, and even so now, the big focus in the initiative was the recycling and the landfill, and what is that gonna look like, and if we don't get out in front of this. I can foresee that in the next year or so, if we get this under, that is something that could move over to a different department, but it's just the fact that that was created at a time when we were trying to get in front of the issue that we had, but then using the skills of somebody to also help other departments. So that's kind of how we looked at it when we set it up.
So when if we elevate the pay, then it's going to be more responsibility,
Yes.
more things. Is there a job description or something that's been written that?
It's been posted.
It's posted. It closes tomorrow. And here's what it says. The purpose of this classification is to serve as the county public information officer, media liaison, and assist the county mayor and government officials in communicating effectively with the media, public, and other county personnel related to breaking news, events, and long-term priorities, including developing publicity campaigns and writing marketing materials, press releases, stories for the web, and social media for county departments. Additional duties include development and coordination of the waste reduction and recycling program. So when I read this, it seems like it's going to be an assistant to the mayor, when they just happen to do some work for the solid waste department on the side.
We're making it more robust to be the one voice for the county and to do recycling, because that person's going to have to be at every chamber. They're going to have to, they're going to have to be out connecting with industry, with schools, with MTSU. If we decide to start taking that food waste, somebody's going to have to be out there educating.
Doesn't Mimi Kiesling, doesn't she already do the education piece with the schools?
She does some of that.
She does some.
And Hannah was doing some of that as well.
Because I was thinking it's been a long time since I've had any kind of a report from Mimi, but it seems like when she'd come before, that was a big part of her report, was all the education piece, and that she's really heavy into that. And I know she would even go out and get grant money, I think, to help subsidize her position, I think. So when you talk about the schools and education piece, I checked that box with Mimi, so I'm just curious how that's gonna work together.
Well, they were still doing it with me
Both of them
and the previous position. Both of them were doing it. So what I'm doing is combining two into one. Her position doesn't go away. Her position's still here, okay? But the solid waste issue, folks, is a big, big issue. It's going to be hard for one person.
Well, I remember this because actually I know Hannah. She went to school with my son, and so I remember when she came on board.
Sure.
And I remember the position, I thought it started in the recycling, and it was going to morph into reporting to Brian, is what I thought was the end plan was going to be. She was going to end up in OIT because a lot of this dealt with that, touched all of that. So, and I honestly didn't know she'd even left. I didn't know she'd accomplished so much while she's here. So that's, all good to hear. I guess I got a couple of issues with just kind of how we're approaching this. And I think I'm echoing some of what they're saying in that it does feel like it's a public information officer. It says clearly it reports directly to the mayor. It feels like it's everything that belongs either in your budget or Brian's budget, or it feels like it should live somewhere else. And so whenever we've added staff positions in the past, we've always done it at budget time. And so whoever would come and want that person, they would come and make their case, and then we would work it into the budget. So you're looking at all the positions at once and the whole landscape all at the same time, and planning for what those expenses are going to be. Like you said, do we put that $30,000 here? Do we put it, one of the other 50 places, that's going to need it? And so, and usually the only time we've ever deviated from that protocol has been when something's just on fire and you can't wait.
Well, we've also done, and that's, to me, that's how I'm viewing this one. Okay. We're changing the position. New positions, changing of positions, all that generally happens during the budget process. Yeah. And some of this happens during the budget process and it really doesn't reveal. But it's been the practice that if the position has changed, and I'll just use the sheriff's department, if he wanted to make sergeants out of corporals, we said, you've got to come. Even though you've got the money, you've got to come and discuss it. Right. And so I feel like this is just what we have done in the past. It's mid-year, and it's a change of position, a change of grade in the position is what we're doing. It's a whole new position because you're doubling a salary. We've never just changed a position
with a 100% increase in pay. I mean, that's just a different job.
But I'm agreeing.
Yeah.
But this is how we've handled it, is that we have come to,
Yeah.
to you all to make the
And it
change.
feels like, too, it should have come through Public Works. I mean, and I know you said it didn't have to come, it doesn't have to be amended. It feels like it should be. It feels like one of those things that would have come through Public Works, would have come to budget, would have gone, if we wanted to do it this way now, it would come at this point in time. If not, it would have come through that same path, only at budget time. So that's why it feels disjointed to me, the way we're doing it. And the fact that it was already posted was the other thing. You know, I didn't know anything about this. I got a phone call last night that's like, what's up with this? I don't know. So, you know, it's just one of those things where you're like, and you're trying to figure out, you're trying to make sense of it. You're trying to figure out what's going on, and none of the pegs go in the holes they've been in before. So I think that's part of, if I'm hearing you right, that's just part, we're just trying to track, where are we, where we're going, was this the right way to get here, you know, what's the plan? That's what I'm hearing, so.
Well, this plan of action is probably all my fault.
Let me interrupt for a minute. Mac, why don't you come on up and join us at the table? I think we've got some more discussion to do.
This direction that we've taken is probably all my fault. When Jeff Davison wanted to create the position, talked to the mayor, I had a vacant driver's position. So we retitled the driver's position, HR did the job description, and we hired somebody. That never came through county commission, public works, nothing.
You're talking about when we hired Hannah?
When we hired Hannah Bleem, I mean Hannah Kate.
Oh, okay.
The first
Hannah.
one.
I was thinking because when Hannah Bleem came through, I remember that coming through.
Right, but
Yeah.
when we hired Hannah Kate was the first one.
Okay.
It never went through any of the government, y'all committees.
Channels.
Because we had the position, we had the funding, all we needed to do was change the job description.
Wasn't
So
it the
that was-
same pay as a truck driver?
No, it was less pay than a truck driver. But we moved that position and do that. So I started down the same path again, you know, to do this, and was looking at tying two salaries together, because I have a special media specialist is vacant, has been for all but one pay period for the year, and I have a driver that retired. So those two positions, what I was looking at was doing a budget amendment, taking out a driver line item, putting it into the other one, and moving that way. So this path is, I'll take all the blame for it, because that's the way we did it the first time.
So how will this person serve two masters? Because that's what it feels like too. Because as you read the job description, Robert picked up on something that I read as well, which was, you know, the first 5 sentences all talk about the work they're going to do for you and that they're going to report to you, but we're saying that we really need them because of your department. So we're just trying to figure out how's that
Mac and I
gonna
are going to be working together.
Yeah.
I'm the master. He works for me.
Yeah.
She'll work for him. Okay.
But reports to you. It says she reports to you. So
Most everybody in the general fund works for the mayor, right?
Well, I don't want to minimize that. I'm
No.
just trying to figure out a clear path. I'm just trying to understand
He
the
and I
path.
are going to be joined at the hip as far as recycling, as far as what has to be done. I mean, this is my office every week, sometimes more often per day. But we'll be working very closely together on recycling, handling our waste, what needs to go on the internet, so Commissioner, if you don't want it, fine, that's.
I'm just trying to make sense of it. That's all I'm saying.
No,
The pieces haven't made sense. I'm just trying to.
I think it's been done in the past, it's been explained to you. If you don't want it, I'll wait till budget time. But it was a position that, the idea came from Mac and said, I think I got an idea, this is the way we do it, and so we went ahead and posted it. I didn't know I needed to get permission.
When you get through,
I'm done.
I'm kind of like Bill O'Reilly. He says I'm a simple man. I don't understand what the heartburn is for the line item where the money's coming from. If the justification is there, I don't understand that, what the problem is. Somebody explain it to me, okay?
Well, to me, it was, let me go back to something Max said and see if it helps. So Max said he's down a driver, and at every public works we hear about struggling with drivers, and so we're giving a driver's pay to a new position that we heard about because the job posted.
Not now. That was my intention, to get us where we needed to be. But then I didn't think about the salary that hadn't been spent. So the salary money to do for this has been in the budget all along. We didn't spend it.
Then it gets into next year. We have a resolution coming up to move recycling for a fee to private businesses. That could put a strain on the drivers theoretically. You haven't said that, but I'm thinking another route could evolve, and we've given a salary to a PIO position. So that's the concern. If we've done it this way in the past, it seems to have had more concise attachment to the department that brings it up. This just struck me as a little more disjointed, and despite everybody's best intentions and the justification you're talking about, I just feel like we're really pushing a lot of money out to new ideas that haven't gone through committees, from committee to budget, from budget to commission. It feels like this is going from an idea to commission, certainly through budget, but I don't know if that helps at all. I may have just muddied the water, but this is not a lot of money. Okay.
Well, my question was, if it's in solid waste this year and it morphs into something that works for the mayor instead of solid waste, is it going to be transferred to the general fund, and we have to figure out how to fund it out of that?
Well, if we hired somebody tomorrow, what are they going to do? They're going to have to learn about the county. So there's going to be a training process. And if there's a weather event that needs to be publicized, then that's what that person needs to do. If there's no events like that happening, then they're going to be doing all the activities that we done in solid waste. Anywhere from running the cells at the landfill to answering telephones, whatever that job is. And that's the way that both Hannahs worked. We trained them well, and the first thing that they did was answer the phones until they could answer every question from a telephone call. And told me they knew the department. Then Hannah Bleen worked with the EMA, worked with the fire department, and started helping with some of their publicity stuff. She worked with the sheriff department quite a bit, and the reason she wanted to work with fire and sheriff is solid waste is not a very pretty topic. I kind of doubt any of y'all have gone to the solid waste social media pages to look at anything, but everybody goes to pause, something about the animals, they go to fire, and they go to sheriff. So she teamed up with those to where if we did an event that would be on their webpage, it got our message out. So, to get our message out, we're going to have to team up with other departments. Solid waste is not going to be pretty enough for anybody to look at.
Well, that's one thing that I thought when I heard public information officer is what they're going to do in all their spare time. And to me, it makes sense having them tied to another department, because we need people that are going to be busy. We don't need to be putting money out there for somebody that we're not utilizing 100% of their capabilities. So whether it's his department or somewhere else, I can see doing that. Now the question we got, to me, is do we need a public information officer at this time? And that's something you guys are going to have to make up in your own mind. I've got my mind made up, or at least I think I do.
So but on this position, they're going to be 100% information, or will they still be doing tasks for your department?
So we do both. It's just like what the commissioner just said, what are they going to do when there's not anything going on? They're solid waste employees. They're doing what I need to be done. Unless the mayor says, hey, I need this person to take care of this. Okay, go take care of that. When you get done, come back here. And we've shared that. Michael Gregory has a media specialist. And I don't know if y'all remember back in July, it's July 3rd of last year, south side of town, Walmart, they had an RV with literally 100 cats. Y'all remember that? Do you?
I do.
His person was out of town. So he called that morning, I need some help. I said, all right, what do you need? He said, Lindsay's out of town and needs some help from Hannah. All right, hang on. Put the phone on hold. with Hannah on the phone, and she talked to Michael, find out what was going on, what was needed, and she said, I need to go help Michael. I said, go. I didn't hear from her again. That was literally her last day of work. That was her last day on the job here. I didn't hear from her until after I saw the news report. It was on the news. And with Matthew Torres reporting it, I knew Hannah's the one that pulled that together, because he reports a different way when she gives him the information. But that's the type of person we had. She was only 25 or 26 years old and willing to learn everything. Finding a person to replace her is going to be extremely difficult. But coming out of my department and moving on to Franklin, I think is a win for us. That we trained her well, and they came and stole her away. They never even posted that job. They just came and recruited her. And she didn't want to take the job. She didn't even want to interview for the job. So they asked her to take a day off work. No, I'm not taking a day off work. They had 8 or 9 people that interviewed her on a Saturday and offered her the job that day. She came back to work Monday literally crying, I hate to go. A whole lot more money, a whole lot more, you know, it's the right thing for her.
Just curious, what does that job pay over there?
I never did ask.
If you go online and look at different counties, as I've done, trying to figure out.
Is she a PIO for Williams County?
Her title is PIO for public safety.
Okay, so
that. So that's what we saw with City of Murfreesboro. They paid him $84,000. Of course, he had 20 years of experience in media, you know, Channel 4 and Channel 2. But if you go online, look at other cities, other counties, it ranges from, depending on how wealthy the county is or the city, it can go anywhere from $60,000 to $125,000 if it's a large city for PIO. Is that right?
That's right.
Trying to do my research, so here I have a position that's been vacant since last July, and I talked to Lisa, I talked to Mac, and I'm going, how can we need to be preparing ourselves for this next step on solid waste. So how can we go ahead and get prepared for this, having some vision, not waiting, the money's there, can we go ahead and cobble it together and get a position, start getting them trained so they can pick this up and be our one voice for the whole county when it comes to recycling and managing our waste stream.
And we're in a different half.
That's correct. But I'd say 90% of the time they're going to be, 95% of the time they're going to be working with Mac. If there's a tornado in Christiana, I want them out there on the front line in front of that TV camera.
So the media specialist position, it's been open for how long?
Since July the 3rd.
Of this past year?
And we posted the position and we received a lot of applicants, but we never interviewed anyone. The mayor election was coming up. Mayor Burgess liked this idea. So I wanted to wait for the new mayor to come in. Didn't want to hire somebody and this is the job that you have today, but it's going to this job in the future. And then the new person say, no, we're not doing that.
So it's not that you haven't been able to fill it, you've chosen not to fill it?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if I had filled it in the, you know, Mayor Ketron won the election, but he had competition, it could have been somebody else, but nobody knew what anybody wanted to do, so I didn't want to hire somebody with, and say, this is going to be your job 3 years from now, and then it not happen.
Yeah, no, my observation wasn't a criticism, it was just are we having, because I know there's a labor shortage, but my only observation was, are we even getting anybody to apply? That's what I was trying to figure out.
But yes, we had several applicants for the job that we currently have now, the media specialist job. And we've needed somebody, but I've intentionally waited, and then, you know, once sat down with the mayor and explained to him what we had and what we were doing, and then it took a while to figure out what direction we were going to go and trying to come up with the funding. So,
did that ever get pulled down, or did it stay posted?
No, it was up for like a 2-week period, and then the posting was over.
Oh, gotcha.
And
you
then,
didn't re-up it?
No, and we received a lot of applicants, and then I actually sent those to the mayor, and then that's when we decided, no, we want to go a different direction with it. Okay, then we need to go a different direction. But it's not that something that's just been set in idle. I've been looking at this since July.
Is there a reason that it wasn't discussed at Public Works?
Just like I said, we moved things around before and never talked to anybody.
I was just curious if there was any.
Not trying to be sneaky, just trying to move forward and move on.
Well, I've got to have one little comment. I've been listening to this for quite a while.
Yes, sir.
But in August, the people of this county elected us a public information officer. And slightly later than that, we got Mr. Samlin as a helper to get people to pay any attention at all to recycling to do any good. I think the mayor or Mr. Sandlin will have to push that issue hard themselves, because I don't think somebody off the street will get the attention they need. They know Mr. Ketcher, and they probably know Mr. Sandlin. Now, as far as being out covering the weather, I tell you about that. But I think the recycling needs to be concentrated back to our officials.
Well, I certainly appreciate the confidence there, Commissioner. Like I said a moment ago, we are now the 4th largest county in this state. And all of the issues that come before the mayor's office on a daily basis, it's going to take every person. Every person in this county is going to have to be committed to this waste issue. It was my #1 priority, and it's going to take everybody contributing in some form or fashion, whether it be monetarily or whether it be, through just talking about it, trying to get people. But to have somebody else when I'm at the nursing home or I'm meeting with the school board chairman on schools or trying to find another location, I've got him out digging information as well. But I want somebody concentrating on this #1 issue. And I'll be there with that person. Mr. Sand will be there with that person. But it's time we grow up and start addressing these bigger issues very quickly, because we're drowning. And the continuous wave that's still coming, we're going to be at 600,000 people. It's not the same county that it used to be when I first got elected.
Hannah Bleen's opinion was her position was to prepare me or whoever, Larry Farley or TK, in being able to what to say and what not to say. So the PIO positions can still do the same thing for the mayor, and just here's all your information. And her thing always with me when the news media would call and want to interview, what do you not want to tell them? I don't want to tell them this. Okay, here's how you read the director question and go this direction. So that was her in her teaching on how to do that, and she can still do the same thing with the mayor or myself, or she can do it herself. It just depends on who needs to be that face. And I agree, the mayor has a recognizable face, and there's a lot of people that's going to listen to what he has to say where they wouldn't be. But our message needs to be more than one person. It's going to have to be a lot of people. We're going to get everybody on board.
But it needs to be the same message.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
The question is, what can we do to expedite this and clear this situation up in an amicable manner? Everybody seems to be been out of shape over the line item and everything. Okay. Let the smart minds start working. How can it be solved for the benefit of Rutherford County? The silence is deafening.
Well, it's difficult to be the point of the spear in some of these things, but I'm uncomfortable that a position, a PIO, got brought through waste management. And let's have a PIO. Let's have a clear. We had an intern back in '92 or 2004 from the college with Mr. Miller or whoever, and it turned in. Now it's a $64,000 job. So I just think we need to establish with the new administration that these need to go through proper committee, if it's from public waste and so forth. So I would like this to be, well, it's already been posted, so I'm just uncomfortable that with this much money, with all the issues you have, how much have you, I'm babbling. I'm not prepared to dismiss with this, but I'm not prepared to make a motion for it. I'll just put it that way. I will not be making a motion for this.
And I respect that. I also would remind you that I've been waiting since July to fill a position that we've not been able to do what we need to do public media wise because we didn't have it. And we have the opportunity to fill that now.
Yes, sir. You had 2 weeks posted, multiple applicants, and chose not to fill it. But now it's a $64,000 job with a different title, different job description. And so.
Has anyone applied for the
How many applications?
$64,000?
There are 12 applications as of yesterday. I haven't checked it today.
Will that position be filled by the mayor, or will the commission choose, or how will it work?
The mayor will pick
the applicant.
Would the mayor have picked your other position, your intern position?
I picked those.
So now.
Because they answered to me. This one will answer to him, so he'll pick that.
So on those applications, if you reviewed them, I'm just curious on what background you're seeing apply as far as media relations
Like the criteria that we're looking for now. Every time we post a position, I mean, we could have a minimum qualifications of being an attorney, and I'm going to get a sandwich maker at Subway. I mean, so people don't really look at the minimum qualifications. They just say, oh, that looks like a title I could do. So we get a mixed bag, you know.
Yes.
But our primary that we're looking for is somebody that has that communications, media. We asked for hold on.
For the risk manager position, we're interviewing on that next week. We have one applicant that worked at the Margarita Tiki Bar last year, and now she works at the Halo Tattoo Parlor. But thought she was qualified to be risk manager.
We're looking for a bachelor's degree in public relations, communication, marketing, journalism, or related, with a year of previous training in public relations or the journalism. They have to have advanced personal computer skills, because obviously they've got to do build some of the programs and some of the media relations stuff, so they've got to be able to have their skills in that. Also has to have really strong written and verbal skills, and be proficient in all the Microsoft applications so that they can create the kind of media that we need.
But see, on that job description or qualifications, the perfect person to apply, I'm kind of thinking may have issues that they're going to be doing other tasks at the landfill, weighing trucks and.
You're not going to get a Larry Flowers to apply for this position, but we're not going to pay what Larry Flowers would demand. We can't afford that. You know, so we came up with about what we think it's worth.
Yeah, but you're not going to find anybody for $38,000.
No.
Well, I understand that, but
We've got several applicants that I have looked at that have some pretty strong skills, that have been in media for some nonprofit organizations, that have also been their front person for that. We've had some other people that have done, you know, your ideal is to find somebody that has had, a lot of times when they go to school like MTSU or somewhere like that to get their journalism or mass media, mass communications degrees, they have a lot of exposure to that when they're working at MTSU, whether it's through their MTSU radio or their MTSU TV. They have a lot of exposure to it that way. So I think that we will have some good applicants. When we posted the position last time for when Hannah Blaine got the position, I want to say we had like 10 applicants, but we ended up only interviewing, was it 3 or 5, Mike? Matt?
I interviewed 5 and then picked 3, and you and Jeff Davis and I re-interviewed those.
Interviewed 3. So out of his applicants, he picked 5 and then narrowed it down to 3, and then we interviewed 3, and Hannah got that job. So the pay obviously is going to be better and have an influence for some people with some stronger skill sets than maybe we've had with the others.
Well, but to Trey's point, that was one of the things I saw in the job description too, is, you know, we say that they need to be able to operate heavy equipment, machinery, you know, do solid waste office operations, including landfill, scale house. You know, you're not going to get somebody with a bachelor's degree in public relations who's going to want to do those things too. So, and I think this goes back to Phil's point, which is.
I think you might.
Well, no, what I was saying is,
well,
but I think to Phil's point is, if we want a PIO, you know, you're saying we can't afford that. Well, maybe we can. Maybe that's what we want. Maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need the $80,000 to $90,000 guy. I don't know, but that's not the job description we wrote, and we've not put it in with the whole you know, budget picture as a whole for the coming year. I mean, that's what I'm saying is, are we piecemealing this and getting something, maybe not still getting exactly what it is we need or we want? And so that's part of when I talked about the disjointedness of it. It just feels like we've tried to turn this into something to get us something almost what we want. You know what I mean? So I'm just curious if this is the smartest approach to fill in this position, or to even getting this position.
Well, when we posted the position, received the applications, never interviewed anybody. There was one Channel 4 newspaper reporter and Channel 4 news reporter and 3 newspaper reporters that applied for a job. You know, and that was at a $30,000 pay with similar job descriptions. Now, to go back, you know, would anybody want to do the heavy equipment? Hannah was willing to go get her CDLs and learn to drive a truck, but she's a unique individual.
She is.
Very unique.
Yes. But, you know,
Maybe interesting.
but we need this position. And from my point of view, talk about what you just said, you know, do we need to shoot for a $90,000? Absolutely. Do we think we'd get it? No. Because right now we're struggling getting one at $60,000. But when we, you know, go through our budget process, it's like our Florence Road problem. We've not made a move yet on Florence Road building a facility for my guys. And they come to work every day in a storage shed, and they have for the last 20 years. And not make one move to fix that. You're talking about fixing the sewer here for the courthouse. 90% of my employees use porta potties. So do we ask for more? We're not gonna get a whole lot more because solid waste is not important enough. Charlie Baum stood up in that meeting. Charlie said solid waste is less than half of 1% of the county budget, so it's not important. So.
Then take this 30,000 and keep it in your.
Plus, I think you've got other priorities.
It isn't, but
Then just use it for. Let's use it for design on a new building, not a PIO.
we need the PIO as well.
Then let's get the mayor's budget and get us a PIO. Let's get you squared away on the building, get you guys out the porch job. You're desperate for nuts and bolts, and we're getting you a PIO to groom them for the mayor, or whoever. I'm using you as the mayor as a quote, the mayor for the county position. So
but solid waste is a changing thing. Culture's got to change. So the only way we're going to get that culture changed is through education and publicity. You know, so that's got to change.
And with this dual stream recycling program that you got, they can also.
We'll talk about that later. But.
Well, we've kind of kicked this around.
Sure have.
Is anybody willing to make a motion one way or the other?
Can I make one?
Right not.
What would be the simplest thing to do would be to transfer your position over into the mayor's budget, line item and all, and call it a PIO, and work toward that. That's the simplest way to do it. I don't know whether anybody's interested in doing that or not. Lisa, don't you think so? I mean,
okay,
because
it's a different fund, and that's why I was saying initially, as long as their primary focus was solid waste and landfill stuff, I felt comfortable having it in the solid waste budget. The way it's presented now, there's not going to be an amendment. It will, to your point, it does have an effect into next year's budget. There's really no effect in the current year budget. In the 18-19 budget, should not be a monetary effect.
So is this really just for information only to us, and it's done?
We'll take particularly what we've done before. If y'all just at this point, we didn't even take it to commission. It was like letting y'all know as a budget committee that what was happening.
So this is FYI, and we don't need to vote.
Typically y'all have approved before. It's like, oh, okay, you know, that's how we presented. Is that the position, the way it was budgeted, was graded one way. We want to make a change in how it's graded, and it's not going to affect. There's not a budget amendment. So usually it was just, we gave y'all the information, you approved it, and then it stopped here. Now, if you want to make it a change and say, no, we don't really care about, you know, dabbling into solid waste, but we're going to focus really something else, then maybe the appropriate place is the general fund. Then we need to amend the general fund for the position.
But if we're gonna do that, it would
Later,
make-
but right now the big focus is solid waste.
Right, right. Now, any time that it shifts, then I would be the first to say, okay, this person is doing way more stuff, not enough to really justify it is an expense of solid waste. It really needs to be shot over to the general fund in somebody else's department.
And how would
not
you know
solid
that?
waste.
When I start fussing it, I need not get my stuff done. That'd be a discussion that you and I have.
Well, I think you could see really
I'm
what
just
that person
asking,
is
yeah,
doing.
yeah.
I mean, this person is going to be pretty visible.
My point was just,
Yeah.
you got a big job. You're not keeping up with what they're doing. So just when you say, when I see this, I'm just
Well,
like, how's that gonna happen?
Well, when
You know?
well, it's easy to see now because I just happen to know
Yeah.
that that person, Hannah, and what all Hannah was doing. It was easy to see. Now, I mean, if I see her doing lots of other stuff or another position, then I would be saying, you know, really, this is not appropriate expenditure out of solid waste. It needs to be more of a general fund expenditure, not a solid waste.
So you're saying this is kind of FYI, but we could give you our blessing if we made a motion and voted for it?
Okay,
Is that-
if I roll back to how we've handled these mid-year things, for example, would be the sheriff coming in and wanting to make changes in positions. If you remember all those, there would be money in the budget. And yes, but we would always say, yes, there's money, there doesn't have to be an amendment, but we're bringing this to you because we're changing the pay grade. And
So
really,
somebody being on the road and he wants to move them over to the detective.
typically that, or it was corporals to sergeants, sergeants to whatever. It's all ranks is the one
It's just
primarily that we
different
would
pay
do.
grade,
So do you
And all
need our-
those are pay grades.
Do you need our motion
To approve,
to adjust the salary?
to approve the change in pay grade.
I'm gonna make the motion to approve the change of pay grade.
And I don't want to second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to change the pay grade
Of that position.
of this
Went
position.
up 1807.
More discussion. Everybody said pretty much what they want to say. Let's call roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
No.
Commissioner Stevens?
No.
Commissioner Allen?
No.
Commissioner Dodd?
No.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes. Motion fails, 4-3. Okay. We are going to move on to the next item.
Could I make a recommendation?
Yes, please.
We kill this based on the fact that it's mixed, not knowing where the money would come from in the future or whatnot. But do you not feel like we need to create this position for one of the two, mainly for solid waste? Because I think they'll need more help promoting the recycle position and educating the people and all more than the mayor needs another help.
He still has his
his
media specialist position. He still has this position at the pay grade it was at. It's the one that he said he chose not to fill based on the future changes. He still has this position. He can post it, he can fill it.
Matt can fill.
Well, I don't, he can try to fill it
Yeah.
at the 38,000.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's-
he's going to do that.
Right.
Or 30,000.
He could fill it, but it wouldn't probably benefit us.
Yeah, you're wasting,
Yeah,
throwing 30,000 away.
You didn't feel like that with a Hannah. You don't know if there's not another Hannah out there. That's all I've heard is how fantastic Hannah was. I
Well,
mean,
that's why she got stolen
Yeah.
after we trained her.
Or we could hear a fund transfer to the general fund from solid waste to hire a PIO.
Can't do that.
no, we can hear it through the budget hearings.
Or
If we
we-
go through our budget meetings,
or-
we can make the pitch for this job.
It would, you'd have to amend general fund.
Through-
Accounting-wise, you can't move from
Well, through-
that way,
through
but
a-
you'd go that way.
Through amendment channels, we could bring a county PIO and perhaps transfer some funds from.
Unassigned fund balance
And
of the
then-
general
And
fund.
then max budget, when he comes in next year, is either gonna have an assistant, or he'll reduce his budget, or it'll be for a truck, or it'll be for leachate, or it'll be for a sewer pipe or a bathroom.
You're saying potentially at the next budget cycle, eliminate this position out of max budget, create a PIO
That might
in the
be the
mayor's
better,
budget?
yes.
Is what you're thinking? And then let it have all these same positions, everything,
It
responsibilities?
may not have heavy equipment
But yeah.
operator, but
Yeah,
may
maybe,
have.
yeah, maybe take out the heavy equipment.
You know,
Well, let me ask this, since we decided we're gonna discuss this a little more. Would it be advisable to have the mayor go back to Public Works, start at that committee and talk about this position, and then possibly come back to us again prior to our budget meetings? I'm just kind of throwing that out there. There's, how many, there's 2 or 3 of you guys on Public Works?
Two.
2 of you, okay.
I would just like to know, looking at the big picture, what other jobs are we looking to create or add to the general fund or solid waste? Do you need another driver next year? If we merge this position with the media specialist, are we going to be asking for another driver?
We're not merging it. There was enough money in there to do it, and in the next year's budget, we would look for the funding for the new position, and we'll still have a driver's position. I hired a driver yesterday. He starts Monday. He's a part-time driver. Right now, we don't need a full-time driver, but we have a full-time position. I'm really disappointed in folks. I'm not mad at anybody, but I've waited all this time trying to go through the right channels and make sure the new mayor wanted to do all this, and so I've wasted all my time doing it. I would suggest, if you want to revisit it, is take the mayor's name off of it and give me the PIO position, and we'll get them trained up and then you can move them later. Sorry, Mayor.
Say something, you just go ahead and take it down off the internet, the posting of the position.
And then send a letter.
Sorry, we'll move forward.
With the salary adjustment.
Yep.
Oh.
What does that mean?
All right. I think we can keep this around as much as we can unless someone's willing to make another motion on this. If not, I'm ready to move on to our next agenda item.
Okay.
What motion would need to be made to clear this up? This is just as thick as mud as I can see.
Well, one.
I mean, I thought we were trying to clear it up a while ago by just transferring this over into the general fund budget under the mayor, and that person would be wearing more than one cap, and they would be addressing the immediate needs, which you have quite a few, but you know, I missed the boat somewhere along the way, and I don't know. You know. So
Maybe just right there.
let's have some help somewhere. What will clarify this situation?
I would suggest backing up and punt.
We'll post a public media specialist. I'll get with Sonia and work on that again. Let this go.
Okay, now with the additional salary increase, just what it is now, 31 or something?
Right.
I can't recommend that.
Okay. And we won't do that again.
All right,
Let's move
guys.
forward.
Let's go ahead and go on to our next budget item, please.
This is asking for a resolution. We talked to several different counties, had Josh McQuarrie look at it. A lot of the counties, 95 different counties and 95 different ways of taking care of garbage. There's some similarities and there's a lot of differences. Currently, Rutherford County Solid Waste does not service any private businesses. We service our convenience centers, our school system, and our county buildings and some city buildings. But it's all government stuff. There's a company in Laverne that's been servicing cardboard and paper routes for years in this area at no charge. They're going to discontinue doing that. So there's a void in the market there. So I want to start being able to service cardboard and newspaper only, dual stream recycling for the government buildings and private industry. And we will charge the private industries $25 every time we dump a container. The numbers that we've ran, if we can have some private industry paying, then we can make the route at least break even, possibly make it grow and be profitable. But my goal is just to break even on running the truck. The ultimate goal, when we're finished with this, is we're having a real hard time getting the schools to participate. So if we can set up a program and we can use the lock bar system and we can have a good, clean, quality product every time, then we can go to the school system, say, listen, young men, this is how the program works and you will have to do it this way. That's where I want it to finally go.
Explain lock bar to me, I don't know what that means.
On a front-end loader container, you've got the lids that flip open. You have some that have slide doors. The ones that we're using don't have the side doors. So it's a mechanism that welds to both sides of the container with a bar that's hinged. When it hinges back, it goes across the top of the door so you can't raise them. And it's also set up with a mechanism to where you lock it and leave the lock on it. My truck picks it up, and when he tilts that dumpster, it releases that lock. And that way he doesn't even have to get out of the truck and unlock it. He can dump it, set it back down, tilt it back, and then unlock it. Will go back and relock.
So are we gonna provide the containers?
Yes.
Are you saying that's for paper products or cardboard or?
Cardboard and paper mixed together only, nothing else. Not a single string product.
And that's something we'll have a place to sell in the future, foreseeable future?
Yes.
When you're calling that dual stream, you're talking about cardboard, paper, or what do you?
Cardboard and paper,
Okay.
two streams.
Okay.
Our attempts to, through Public Works, our attempts to service the schools, all the stuff's getting contaminated. And we've thought about locks, and we've run through little different scenarios, so.
Yeah, well, I guess, and that's one of the things I was concerned about too, that how are you guaranteed that you won't get contamination with this system? I'm not sure.
If your business decides you want to do business with us,
Okay.
we would provide you with a container with the locks and the lock bar, and we would charge you $25 every time it's done. The first time you have contamination, we're going to say, this businesswoman is contaminated.
Okay.
We can't have that. Second time, we'll do the same thing. Third time, we'll come get our container and go do business with somebody else.
And so what's your challenge then doing with the schools? Has it been the same kind of thing? You
Because the
can't,
schools don't care.
because you can't cut them off?
Nothing comes out of their budget, anything else. We've tried to reduce, and we have reduced their level of trash service to cause them have to recycle. And they do recycle somewhat. But we can't have bagged commodities. They're still bagging stuff. To your point, since fall break, there's been 3 loads of recycle actually recycled. The rest of it had to go to landfill. And they're building 3 more schools and gonna start the same thing at those schools next year. We're gonna have to get ahead of that.
Would there be a contract with these people?
Yes, sir, it would have to be.
So what if we decided we were gonna stop providing the service? Would we have an out to?
Yeah, in the contract, if you contaminate it the 3rd time,
No, I mean, if we decided it's not profitable, we don't wanna continue doing it, or relocking ourselves into providing this service for several years. with
it's
these-
not intended to be profitable.
Or if we decide we're losing money, it's not worth it, but we guarantee that we're gonna do service for them for 3 years or 5 years, is there a way for us to get out?
That would be the contract, I mean, that'd be a contract to come, right, between the county and.
I just want us to have it out in case that we're losing money and it's not worth it.
We're losing money on solid waste for all these years, and we doing that yet.
But if we say, hey, we're going, for $25 a month, we'll give you a dumpster and come get it.
Once
If
a
for
week.
any reason we choose to stop providing that service, can we walk away? It's
It's just, that's what needs to be in the contract,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we write it that way.
We need to be able to walk away.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be guaranteeing that we're doing something for 5 years if we're not making what we expect to bring in to make it break even or lose a little bit or whatnot. I don't want us to be bleeding and have to keep providing that service. So as long as we have an out 30 days notice or something like that, then I'm okay with that.
Is this something that the business would use themselves, or is it where the public would come and?
No, business only. We can't let the public use it.
We have, initially, we have the dumpsters, right? When I asked the other night, you weren't gonna have to buy dumpsters.
No, we've got we've got
start
the
this
containers.
run, so that-
We have them donated.
That'd help
This is,
me.
excuse me, go ahead.
That helped me support it. Knowing that we weren't gonna buy dumpsters, we could start this fee-based, we could attempt this fee-based service.
So, make me understand, you're not actually wanting to make this another revenue stream, but you're basically saying you want to break even, or you're gonna try to make a profit on these?
Well, we ran some test loads with it. And the first test load was 17 tons of commodity, and it brought $600. It cost us $103 an hour to operate the truck, so it cost us $824 to pick it up. So if we've got, you know, roughly 9 paying customers, they make up that difference. So no, are we actually making money? No, we're not making money. We're just covering the missing revenue cost. So if we go with a higher price, then you could do more. Or if you go with more service, you can do more. We ran another test run today. It was 13 tons. You know, so, you know, it depends on how much commodity you have, and what the value of the commodity is on that day is how much you're going to get, and then you're going to have to make up the rest of it. The reason the company that has been doing it, quit doing it, is contamination, and it's not profitable.
But this,
because they were doing it for free.
Right. This is something that we are pulling out of the landfill, though.
Yes.
So otherwise, it would be landfill.
Yeah, this is what I was trying to figure out. So your motivation is to keep it out of the landfill, but also are you trying to just promote a culture change of and promote the recycling and get people just more in that mindset of doing, making it easier for them to do it? Is that part of what the motivation is?
That's part of it, and the other part of it is to prove it can be done contamination-free.
Okay, I got you.
And once we can prove that, then we can cause other people to keep it contamination-free.
So who are you doing your test run with?
The containers are already out in place, but they're not surfacing anymore. So we're going and picking up some of those containers along with our containers that we already have in our centers, our paper containers. That's where we've been getting our test runs.
So when you say a test run, you're not actually physically getting any product, you just test?
No, we actually ran our truck those 2 times, started that morning and picked up all the dumpsters and went and dumped them, and then went and picked up some more and dumped them. And got the weights. How long does it take to do it?
Where were the dumpsters? And who was putting stuff in them, I guess?
They were at businesses.
Okay.
And there's some that if you go to most of the schools around the county, there's 1 or 2 paper containers sitting out in the parking lot. All those are going to wind up going away because of contamination. We are not taking those on. And there's no need for the schools to have them because we already provide a recycling service for them.
And you're saying contamination is the members of the public coming to throw the trash in?
Literally.
So what's keeping the public from doing the same as the ones?
We're going to lock them.
So you're locked?
Well, they're going to be locked up, and then the business is going to be responsible for it.
They'll have the key?
Yes, and they're not, you know, if they want to allow, you know, their customers use them, then they'll have to make sure the customers don't contaminate it because they'll lose the service.
If that model works, it can transfer to the schools.
Absolutely.
Compel them to do what works elsewhere.
Right.
I'll make the motion to approve this resolution.
Second motion, Commissioner Piercy.
Second.
Dodd. Second. Is there any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Peete?
Yes. Okay, last thing on our, other than other business, which I don't know if we have any yet or not, is the Rutherford County Book. I believe, Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, this is, I'm not needing approval. This is just an FYI. I was approached back in probably October from a company out of San Antonio. This company goes into counties, and usually counties only, and they will put together a full color, real nice coffee table book that talks about the county and what all the nice things they are. All they want is me to send a letter saying that we endorse this. This is from the Travis County Government Publication Company. There's no work on us. They will actually pick the local photographer. They'll pick the local writer to write the things about it. We could, the county, they offered it to me, or the county, to make money off of it. We can make as much as $36,000 would be our share because they do all the work and selling of the books. Okay, at $59, it's a kind of a keepsake. They go out and get sponsorships like a Nissan or a Bridgestone or whoever to buy their ad in the back to promote their businesses or industries. And then the local photographer and writer puts all the nice things about Rutherford County in that. I chose not to do that because they said that you can choose a local charity for that to go to. So I thought it would be appropriate to ask for the proceeds to come back to Main Street. to help the downtown area and let them use that for jazz festival or whatever else. And so they'll actually, Main Street has accepted it. So the contract will be between Main Street and this book. It'll just, I'll send a letter out with my signature encouraging businesses and others to purchase this book for the Main Street downtown program, and hope people buy it.
Did they say how long it would take to put it together?
6 months,
About a year.
about a year. Because I think they want the photographer to do all 4 seasons, to go out and take pictures. And of course, on the Main Street, they brought Mr. Shacklett and his sister, who is a wonderful writer, you know, since she puts on the Jamboree and
She does Uncle Dave Macon. Did she do Uncle Dave Macon?
she does Uncle Dave Macon Days. And of course, they're so entrenched in history, they can, with all the photographs and everything that they have over there. So this is just an FYI, no cost to the county at all.
Did Josh look at this?
I'm sorry?
Did Josh look at this?
I ran it by him, yeah, just to.
He looked at 6 and 9, paragraph 6, paragraph 9. He looked at this.
Sure, I sent that over to him. He sent back and said he saw no problem with it at all. No exposure or liabilities back on the county.
And the book will be named Rutherford County.
Rutherford County.
I'm assuming they would have it for sale at the chamber. It seems like that'd be the perfect place for it.
Sure, sure.
So the contract says that Rutherford County is signing, but it's not going to be, it's a Main Street instead of us?
Yeah, we're changing it over to Main Street.
Okay, on this book here, it has one photographer and one text. I mean, I just imagine several people contributing to the stories and the text. So,
Well, they'll contract with one photographer, you know, of course, they brought Mr. Shacklett with him. I guess there's other photographers that can contribute as well. And they'll pay the photographer and the writer to write the text underneath the pictures. You'll see in that one, in the front flap is the photographer, on the back flap is the writer. Somebody knows the entrenched history, and that, I think that's what Rutherford County has to sell, is our history. That's why we're number 4 in visitation. And, you know, from the CVB, the tourism in Rutherford County is very high, and we get a lot of tourism. Those tourism dollars don't cost us anything, so this would be an added coffee table keepsake.
So how can Main Street how can Main Street give permission for the county to use our logo and so forth like that?
Well,
if they sign the contract, whoever signs the contract says they're given this publisher the right to use the county logo and so forth like that.
Well, I guess I probably should ask that permission. Can we use our county logo, since it is going to be the Rutherford County? It's not going to be, you know, any other county. It's going to be the Rutherford County book.
That's not copyrighted.
I don't know if it's trademark.
You need to see it. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
Let me ask Brian.
you might want to ask about that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if our logo would even have to be on it. They can just come take a picture of the courthouse or take a picture of something without using our actual logo.
Sure. Yeah, when they first approached us, they wanted the county to back in. I said, I'm really not interested. I don't have time.
Right.
I've got too many balls in the air right now. Talk about a coffee table book. So that's why I asked them to pass the ball over to Main Street, and they were excited about it.
I think they can do that without anything from us, like logo-wise, or they can go take pictures of whatever they want to that's Rutherford County based, and it's their picture. They won't have to use our materials.
Well, but do you have a problem using the logo?
Well, if we let this company use our logo, or we can let somebody else, and does that open a slippery slope? You know, if another person wants to publish a book, or if Main Street's controlling the content of the book.
Well, I'm not sure that you're going to get somebody who's going to come in behind them next year and want to do another book.
Well, I agree,
You're not going to be able to sell
if
that.
Main Street's making the book, if they're controlling the content and so forth, if it's something that's not correct or we don't agree with, our logo's on it. You know, if we don't have any control over the content, I'm not sure if I want our logo on there. So,
Well, what's to keep anybody from coming in and taking a picture of the logo and posting it anywhere they want to? Now,
but
what's to
if
keep that
it's,
from
if
doing
it's
it?
copyrighted or trademarked,
So
then
Brian said that it's not trademark, and he said if it came right down to it, Shacklet really owns the logo because they're the ones that created it.
Because he's the one that created it. Mr. Shacklet did several years ago, and that's what I was
they'll
told.
take their own picture of it.
Right, right. You know, John Q can do that, basically.
Well, I think he drew that logo back in the 70s, didn't he?
We'll say good job. Anything else?
Right there, is there any other business? There being none, we are adjourned.
Thank you.